Let the bass kick.
Let's
Blue moon.
Jay does some
No, I do
not.
beatbox. No, I do.
break out the beatbox for us.
No, I got nothing with the beatbox.
Got nothing? All right. Well, it's okay. I already hit the record button, so.
Watch out.
What up, jazz hands? What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? What up, everybody? Welcome back to The Last Cash. This is episode 14, and it's Friday the 13th
2020.
in 2020.
That's pretty close, right?
My
We're doing
God.
like 13 on 13.
I hope y'all are staying safe out there. It might be a full moon. Anybody got a farmer's almanac? Farmer's almanac?
You do if you have a phone.
Lion face. Sour face. All right.
Is this like some new meditation you're doing, bud?
No, it's acting, stretching the facial muscles to better enunciate your verbiage. Anyway, I'm Will. This is Marcus, right over here. And
What up?
What up?
we've got some
Hello.
weird stuff going on with the headphones. Also, over there is Jay,
What's
longtime friend of the show, Shawn Sinclair, PDGA events manager, and our special guest this evening, Mr. Brian Earhart.
Hello. Greetings, everybody. Woo woo.
Thanks for coming over.
Yeah, right on.
I don't like how this that's working out. Hopefully that'll stabilize and be okay.
You can give us any pointers after the show about how to run wires.
Yeah. I mean, this was all done on the
I'll
fly.
do the best I can.
I thought I had it figured out before everybody sat down. That was the idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah. So
that thing has a lot of knobs. We don't know what they do.
I mean, dude, as much technical difficulty problems as we have with every episode, Friday the 13th. We should expect no
Absolutely.
less. So. Yeah, exciting week here in Nashville for disc golf. We're about to go into the club championship tomorrow for the weekend and wrapping up the season. So that's exciting. We got our board of directors election going on as well. Final voting this weekend. So we will be electing a new leadership of the club. So check out our election special from last weekend. And, so, Brian, you are spending your off season here in Nashville.
I am.
And what prompted that? What brought you to our neck of the woods?
Yeah, a couple different reasons. Number one, I think it's just a very good vibe that Nashville disc golf brings. And Nashville in general as a city is a place that every time I've passed through, I've had fantastic memories, and I've met new people each time I've come here, and the people are down to earth and kind, and the seasons actually like change appropriately. Like we're experiencing a real fall, which I'm from the Chicagoland area where it feels like we have summer for 4 months and then like boom, like
Freeze.
winter and cold and snow, and I feel like this is more appropriate to like the weather that I enjoy. And
This is the first fall for a while.
oh really? So I got lucky.
Yeah, really lucky.
Sweet.
We had a heat wave for the last week.
Yeah,
That was pretty weird.
75 on Christmas a couple years ago.
We went and played.
Oh, see, I'm cool with that.
yeah.
I love that's like
Who
half
is
the
it?
reason I'm here, you know. But I had I spent my last off season in Florida, and we were building the van, and I was working at a pro shop down there. And now that the van was built, and we didn't need like a super warm place to build that, me and my partner Lindsay that travels with me, we're thinking about where we wanted to go, and I was like, if I'm going to be selfish, I'm going to come to the place that I have the most fun memories at, and I just came here. Nice. So I love it here. Love Nashville.
That's awesome, man. We are overjoyed to have you in town, and you've got a lot of fans here. You have been dipping your fingers into a lot of pies over the last year.
Yeah.
And you've really kind of diversified your portfolio.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been a pie dipper, I guess you could.
Yeah.
I've been a bit of a pie dipper.
Classic quadruple threat.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've obviously you've been. How long has it been since you've been with Discraft?
2017, early 2017
I
was
thought it
when
was
I
about
signed
3
with them.
years.
I had been throwing discraft my whole life, so it was kind of like, it feels like I've been with them for longer, but they officially signed me in 2017.
Okay. And good opportunity to go ahead and shout out your other sponsors if you'd like to.
Oh man, so straight up, Wander Disc Golf is a clothing company. It's a friend of mine, Ty from Iowa, is just making disc golf apparel with a charitable donation each time something is purchased, and he's just really smart. And the way he runs a business is very genuine and very giving, and it's crazy how much he has helped me out as a player. Just as, Wander being a side hobby business for him, he's phenomenal. And so anything he chooses to do, I'm going to be behind. And a lot of disc golf clothing companies that I've seen just kind of source the cheapest options, whether it's like a hoodie or like a t-shirt or Ty really enjoys clothing, and he sources really quality materials for the clothes. And he asks me how the clothes fit me, and I can have open communication with him on feedback for future bits of apparel. So definitely support him. He's pushed my my Earhart brand that I've been pushing a little bit this year, and yeah, overwhelming support from them. Grip, obviously some of the best bags in disc golf, and I've been carrying a Grip for over a decade. It's a pretty solid bag, and or maybe just around a decade. I'm not quite sure. Maybe 2011 or 2012 they started really pushing their bags, but and then Delwood Disc Golf in Illinois. I don't know if y'all have played Delwood Disc Golf Course.
Bucket list.
The canyons. It's just a really amazing place to hang out. Like, I wouldn't call it a gold level course, but if you wanted the ultimate home course experience, like mixture of fun, challenge, freedom, it's perfect. So, and full service pro shop on site. So fantastic people in Lockport, Illinois.
And you are from Illinois.
Yeah.
So that's where you learned to play disc golf. I know you've been a member of the PDGA since 2010, but you kind of really started playing the bigger events and touring about 4 years ago. And so tell the listeners a little bit about what your life was like when disc golf impacted you, when you fell in love with it.
Oh my God. So yeah, it says 2010 for PDGA, but I've been playing tournaments before that.
Yeah.
And
most people do. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was a kid back then, so it was kind of who could I get to drive me to the tournament, and most of the time initially it was my mom. So it was when I could get my mom to drive me out there. But Frisbee impacted me at such a young age. Some kids have a favorite toy, whether it's a basketball or a baseball bat or a slingshot. Mine was a Frisbee. It was this black Whammo that I had that was in my, you call it the sports bin in my garage, full of all the different bits of sports equipment. And I just was drawn to the Frisbee very, very early on. And my mom would always set up these little Frisbee golf courses in our neighborhood. I didn't know it was a real sport, but she would tape number signs that she colored on and would tape them to trees and whatnot. And I don't know, just as a kid who had probably pretty bad ADHD, I needed a sport that my imagination can kind of be utilized in, and it was just endless for me, and it still is, but the first time I played real disc golf on a basket was when I was 12, and my dad would take me before the Bears games, and we tried a new hobby, and it was great. Time with my dad, obviously, playing sports. And then for me, none of the traditional sports were appealing to me. I got so bored so quick. Soccer, I was the kid spinning around, throwing grass up in the air and crap like that. I was awful, man. I just couldn't keep with it. But, I don't know what it was about the flying disc where, most people, when they throw a disc and it dive bombs out of their hand, they're like, what the hell is wrong with this disc? But for me, I was like, I don't know. Ken Climo's name was on that little display that we bought the discs from, and he makes them fly straight. So I got to figure something out. And, it was just endless. We had a field across from my street, and I would go there with my DX Leopard and my Archangel, and I would just chuck them. 2 discs, and I was just chucking them all day, every single day in my summer vacation. So I don't know. Just been fascinated by him for a long time.
How old did you say you were at that time?
I was 12 at that time. And
12,
then
okay.
Did you get into any junior events?
I did.
Jay,
but
check
they
to
were
make sure you don't
local.
have a switch flipped on your mic because you just sounded really weird.
I did earlier too. Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that. Is that better?
You sound great.
Yeah. Earlier it was like it had like a it sounded like it was.
You sound like
underwater
you're
or
far
something.
away.
I can hear him, but
Yes. Hello.
Are you good?
Is that better?
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Word.
Okay. Sorry, Brian. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I was asked if I was playing junior events. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I was just curious in your progression.
Yeah, so we didn't have a lot of juniors in my area. We had 2 U19 players that were really good for at the time, like for U19. But I was really intimidated by them, and I wasn't that competitive. I really didn't care about score at all or putting or anything. I just loved chucking the frisbee. And the first time I played a tournament when I was 13, I believe, it was like this local C tier. I played juniors in my own division, and then I played with the 2 older kids on my card, and I was so nervous, and I didn't even realize like to think to practice putting. I was just like, I don't know, that's not appealing to me. And I missed a putt from like me to you, and I remember I was crying. I was like so like embarrassed and sad, and I was like, this is so stupid. And it took me a while to like appreciate the finer points of like just golf in general. I played ball golf in high school, and still I was the same way. I just loved smacking the ball and didn't care about short game or putting or anything. And it took some time for me to appreciate those parts of the game, but really for me it was just throwing a frisbee. That was important for me. So the competition wasn't appealing for quite some time.
It's funny you mentioned crying or like that you got so upset. No, I mean you see that with the juniors. Yeah, I'm hearing it again now too.
Yeah.
Anyway, you hear it with the juniors. Something. I'll flip that switch.
Oh,
Try it again.
Any better?
Nope.
Not really.
well, crap.
Hello. Is that better?
yep,
Yeah, I think you're just speaking to the
Scream
wrong
into
part of
that
the
bad
mic.
I'm speaking into the little thing. Like you tell me to every time. Every time.
Right on.
Sorry for you guys listening or watching this. You mentioned that because you see a lot of the juniors nowadays have just outburst
Yeah.
or have fits
Uh-huh.
basically
Yeah.
or cheat in a sense because they're so upset that they're just like, I'll do anything I can.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that because what is it about that really changes
Oh man.
playing from that beginning level to where you are now? Like does it still happen?
I mean, we see it all the time in disc golf. Like, not for me. I'm not going to throw a tantrum,
Sure.
but I think for children, I think it's an amazing example for how good of a game golf is for kids. Because it doesn't lie to you. The kids are held accountable. They're forced to be held accountable unless they cheat. So the tantrums are coming from the fact that they can't weasel their way out of trouble anymore.
Sure.
You can't be a sneaky little kid when you're playing golf. You have to be disciplined, and you have to accept adversity, and you have to overcome adversity. And I think those are really important lessons for kids. I think that's why you see a lot of tantrums.
Well, I have a child, 10-year-old stepson, who's similar when you're talking about he loves throwing the disc, but he doesn't seem interested in a lot of anything except for video games, really. But I'm curious, what it is about that he always wants to go play disc golf.
Yeah.
And so it just was in my head was wondering, like, you seem very similar. So I was you say it's just chunking the disc. There was like no other appeal than just throwing the disc far.
Yeah, if I can get, if I could make a living just playing catch, I would love doing that. I love playing catch.
Well, let's start it.
I was
Professional catch. I'm
100%.
down.
I was 100% in that thing.
Same boat.
Yep. I just wanted to just go throw and play, and I to this day have never kept score in a practice round.
I just realized the same thing last year. I've been touring for 3 years, and my first scored practice round was late last season. And it's very important to do that. It's if you're playing to score.
Sure.
It's wild. I don't know. I agree with you.
I like the idea, but it seems like for me it adds a little bit too much pressure. Playing practice round and then like keeping your score is just too much pressure. I'd rather just like have fun doing our practice rounds, but I see the importance of it. But for me, like, I'm going out with my friends. It's been a long day at work. I just want to relax. Oh yeah, make sure you keep your score because next time you're going to be out here and you need to play well because your competitors are going to be ready and you got to be ready.
Yeah, there's some people that literally they just approach disc golf to score.
Yep.
They approach it like a video game, and that's a huge advantage for them to be naturally drawn to that.
Sure. The mental aspect when you're talking about scoring a practice round or not scoring a practice round kind of lends its hand to you're already in a mental like already thinking about that. You're already like, if I score a birdie here and then I'm in the tournament, and if I don't get a birdie, I'll be upset. And that kind of came from you and Sarah. So I stopped keeping score during practice rounds. But if you do that, is it not just kind of leaning its hand to you already have something going on mentally up there? You're already kind of thinking about that, kind of setting yourself up before the tournament even starts to kind of maybe not win?
For me, it was the fact that, and I don't know if Shawn has something different, because it sounds like we kind of do the same thing, but I knew that when I play a practice round, I'm only trying to throw shots that I'm uncomfortable with. When I'm playing, so then, and to me, because I flick and I can throw backhand with every disc in my bag, I throw all sorts of crazy stuff in practice rounds. And I found myself after my first year of touring at all the hardest courses across the country, I realized, like, it's not about throwing the hard shot. Like, Nate Sexton throws like 3 different types of shots. He can scramble well and putt really well, but he plays his bread and butter, and it doesn't matter how fancy his game is. Like, he's playing for score. And I realized that I was playing and throwing way too hard of shots, you know, and you know, Yuli and I have talked about this a lot. And it's, you have to, when you're playing a practice round, you have to make, especially when it's your job and you actually have to worry about score at the end of the day, you have to figure out if this round is for learning, like a new skill or grinding something that you need to polish up on, or just purely execution. And I realized that I hated knowing the score during a tournament round. And this crap happens. Like, UDisc happens, like, people are talking about scores. I found that the moment I knew where I was at score-wise, I would implode. So I was like, you know what? You just have to nip it in the butt and get used to keeping your score in practice. So, like, for you, it sounded like you thought too much about score, so not keeping your score might be a better thing, you know? So I think it's just counterbalancing and making sure you're comfortable in all situations.
I'm so with you there, man. Like, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Like 2,000%.
2,000%.
Well, basically, I just played a practice round with him and Sarah, and they were like, what are you keeping score for? And I was like, well, just so I know.
Just throwing. You know? Yeah.
Well, it was, when you talk about you're playing to score, and then you're playing how you were playing, throwing hard shots because probably they were fun, and when you executed them. So doesn't that kind of draw a line on, you're supposed to play sports for fun, but then you're now kind of, does that taken out of it, or is it still, is it the same mental mind state, or is it something that you look at differently now?
It's something I look at differently now, because the rounds, I now appreciate a round at a big tournament where I look back and I'm like, wow, I threw a buzz on like 50% of those shots and I played great. I don't care anymore if I can rope, 50 out of 70 strokes, buzz shots, whatever. That sounds great. You know, it feels amazing to play clean and play well and execute a game plan. And some people, like, I think of Chris Dickerson, his brain doesn't think of all this fancy stuff. His brain's like, well,
chicken strips.
I like to win chicken strips.
Straight to the basket.
Yeah. So he just, and he throws a few different variations of flat very, very well. He's got a workable sidearm. He's got big distance and a putt, and that's it. And he plays whatever the easiest shot is. And that's what I've been having to then reteach myself, because I was an all lefty sidearm player pretty much. I had distance backhand. I've always had distance backhand, but shaping was non-existent. But I was throwing these crazy, like, overforced, like, even beyond Sarah Hokum forced sidearms. Her sidearm is insane, but it's just such a hard, especially being lefty, you're pretty much a poor man's righty at that point, So I knew I had to get away from that and just learn the stupid shots. Just learn how to shape a slightly flip up to straight, slight ante to straight, and then flat to flat. Like, that's how you win. So,
and to touch on that same thing you said about throwing the simple shot and knowing your game.
Yeah.
2 examples going way back 20 years. Dr. Rick Vokes.
Oh, yeah.
And, I lived up in Bowling Green, so I got to play with him 2-3 times a week. But then the other one was Ron Russell. When he won his world title in '99 in Rochester, he had 3 discs in his bag. He had 6 total, but he had 2 Cyclones, 2 Comets, and 2 Magnets.
Love it.
And that's all he threw.
I love it.
I'd go out. I've played hundreds of rounds with Dr. Rick, and you'll go out to a course and he'll throw a DX Leopard down the middle, turnover, hyzer.
Yep.
And he did nothing fancy. End of the day, it's like, oh, look, he just beat you by 7.
Yeah.
You know, he's got 4 discs in his bag.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So that's a really great point to hit on, because you see these up-and-coming players that have 32 discs in their bag, and, you know, they want to get the disc to do the shot for them, but you make the disc work for you.
You win the golf tournament by doing all the stupid, silly stuff well. Like all the boring crap, if you do that well, it feels way better than executing a couple fancy shots.
Yeah.
When you walk away from a tournament and you're like, I got up and down with a zone from 250 and in, 19 times out of 20. That feels really good. And I think now that I'm like, okay, crap, like I'm this Frisbee player kid, but I'm going up against golfers. People that see disc golf, they go into it and the first thing they think about is winning. And for me, it took me a decade to even think about winning. Like all I cared about was chucking it up over the trees or like flipping up something like really light and flippy to see what it would do. And so it's like some people have to work backwards and learn to take the game less seriously. I have to like learn to take the golf part of it more seriously.
I think you and I are alike in a sense, because going in, you're not looking for a win when you first just out there throwing frisbees.
Yeah, when I was first
You're
out there,
trying to throw.
Yeah.
And like even to this day, I don't go in with a mindset of trying to necessarily score to beat somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to go and play par golf.
Play your best.
Par golf with no mistakes and get my birdies. That's if you do that, I feel like, and keep it that simple, then you're on track. Like
Exactly.
But when you get serious in that moment, because first round, second round, when it comes down to the first, second card, when you get serious in that moment, is it something that's started at the beginning, or is it something that kind of builds its way up as you go through the round?
Can you repeat that?
More so like...
Well, no, I'm just trying to make sure I answer it the right way, yeah.
Like when you... So say you walk into a tournament, basically.
Okay.
First couple of rounds, maybe it's not as professional mindset as you would take into a final round lead card.
Uh-huh.
But when you go into that final round, chase card, third card, is it the same mindset as it would be? And does it start at the beginning of your round? Is it the same mindset going in as if you were not?
Yeah. So what I will say is, for me, when the best finishes of my career, and I actually look at last year, Memorial, I got like 8th at the Memorial, and I played pretty solid golf, like 1040 average. And after that tournament, after all 4 rounds, I was so exhausted. And I had never put together 4 straight rounds with that much focus before in my entire life. And that's, to me, I think the success comes from preparation, making sure that you're I did a podcast with Eagle recently, and this is what he talks about is, he feels very confident and happy and peaceful when he knows he's put the preparation in. He's taken time to learn the course with his skill set and with his equipment that he's playing with now, and attacks the course that way. I don't approach any big tournament. I hate approaching it casually. Like there's some stretches on tour where it's like your 12th week in a row, and your 12th tournament in a row is like a pro tour, and it feels like a C tier, and I hate that feeling. I like when they call your name and you're like pumped up and amped up, and even if you shank your first shot because you're all pumped up, I feel better playing that way. So like I like taking the game seriously. I used to come out trying to be like this flower shirt guy, like trying to be all cool, and I was trying to make a name for myself, and I was really happy and thrilled to be out there living my dream, but I think I dug myself a weird hole because I do want to take these tournaments very seriously. I like kind of shutting down mentally and not chatting with everybody on the card, and I like executing a game plan now, or at least I'm learning to like it. But it's some of these dudes, like, just naturally, they wouldn't even really know how to explain their mindset to you. Like Chris, if Chris Dickerson could tell you in a paragraph his mindset in a tournament.
Yep.
It's probably was
we had him on the show.
Yeah, it's probably day to day.
It's a special thing.
I wanted to get your opinion on that too, because I know that you've been playing for years and you teach on top of it, and everybody in this room I've seen throw pro level shots, but then it's other times it's like you don't even have the confidence to attempt the shot. So like you playing and teaching, is there a mental difference there? Like because you can teach very well, you've taught me a lot.
Well, thank you.
But I've played rounds with you where you struggled and things like that. Is it so? It coming from an aspect of being able to teach basketball, your mindset maybe is not the same as somebody else's.
Well, I guess what I'd like to bank off of what he had said. When I get nervous, like the shot I try to go for usually doesn't happen correctly. So, for instance, hole 1 MCO, when we started off, I've thrown that shot plenty of times, and I guess I'm trying to like link a couple things into here at the same time. Like for the lefty, I guess it's the Anheuser flat.
If you're going for a 2.
Yeah, and for the righty, it's just a simple backhand hyzer, and I completely duffed in early release and ended up in a cedar. You know, something I can do a backhand hyzer all day, every day. Yeah. You know, when I get up there and they're like, my friends standing behind me, and I got the TD and people I know, and everybody's like root me on, like, "Hey, Marcus, go ahead, man, you got this." Like,
hometown
hero.
Know,
you gotta have a good, seriously, hometown hero, and I was just a hometown zero for that moment.
Yeah. So Brian's learning to love the pressure. You're still not really loving the pressure.
Not, and there's different levels of pressure, because that was like A tier, Music City Open, COVID 2020, people behind you. I'm like, I don't know if I've had this pressure before, because I've been on video before. I've taught people before. I've actually like done different things to actually try to help my game for that exact situation. But when it came, I wasn't in the right mindset to throw the shot. Next round, next day, I nailed the shot. But that time, the first hole, the first day, I was seriously like, wow, this is it. You really got to score well. Yeah, you're gonna start off with a 4.
Brian, you mentioned that you came from other sports as well. Like you played traditional golf.
I played a lot of sports.
So, all the standards: baseball, basketball, football.
I played baseball for a while growing up. I actually was a bowler for a long time. I bowled a 300 when I was like 13.
Nice.
Yeah, when I was a young kid, my whole family bowled, and like it was a. But again, it was another one of those games that I stopped playing because I got burnt out because I got bored of it and I didn't really appreciate the nuances of it. When I was a young kid. It got too serious too quick, and I just stopped playing that. So, but I was a bowler for a while, which has a lot of mental crossover into disc golf, which I wish I still did because of that.
A lot of accuracy sports.
I'd like to say you cannot play a disc golf round after bowling.
Oh yeah, your forearm.
It's over
for sure.
You're not gonna play well.
Yeah, I just started rock climbing this off season. It's like cross training, and I've been doing bouldering, which is like no rope, and you're just pretty much climbing up like these really hard routes, like on this short wall. And that's the same feeling. Your forearms and your fingers and everything are just burning, like pumped up full of blood because of you're using muscles you never thought you had to use.
You're supporting your entire body weight with just the tips of your fingers.
Oh, some of these guys are
doing
insane.
Weird stuff like that. Yeah.
Get a gripper.
Yeah.
Get a gripper.
I know grip strength. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that and when you can pull like things in your fingers. And it's horrible
for sure.
So if you can get those things limber and stay limber, it's
right on.
It'll help a whole lot with climbing.
The main sport that I loved was volleyball. So men's volleyball in Chicagoland was huge. In high school, it was like big varsity sport. I don't know how big it is here.
Non-existent.
Yeah, I know. Like
not very at all.
There's a pocket of the Midwest where like it's a very big sport. And I played all year round for a while. I played for 5 years. But then like 3 of those years I played club volleyball, and we traveled all over the country during the off season for high school, and we were just playing that all year long. And I met some of my best friends playing volleyball. I was the captain my senior year. And then I played ultimate in college, and that was like my last team sport. I was kind of burnt out on the team sports, at the time. And, but yeah, I played a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know like for me, I was around disc sports most of my life because like the guy that lived with me and my mom growing up in my formative years was an old freestyle guy.
Sweet.
So
that's awesome.
Anytime we were outside, we were throwing a lid. And then in high school, and through school years, I played Pee Wee baseball, and then I played basketball in elementary school, and then in middle school I played football, and in high school I was on the track team, and I threw discus and shot put.
Oh,
and all
sweet!
That stuff.
Hell yeah!
And then in college I played a little ultimate, and I was aware at the very like peripheral, distant point of my awareness. I was aware of disc golf, but every time anybody asked me if I wanted to go play, I was like, "That sounds stupid." And but much later in life, once I wasn't participating in any kind of sports, and I really didn't have that kind of a fraternal kind of community centered around athletic activity, and I discovered it filled a huge void in my life.
Oh yeah.
So when because you played disc golf from a very young age, as you were going through school and playing other sports, what kind of stage did disc golf have in your life? Was it kind of on the back burner? Were you playing it throughout just casually? When did it kind of occur to you that it might be something worth applying your attention to?
I think when I was 15 was the first time I saw like a video with like climb. It was like pre-YouTube. I think it was like 04, 05. I think I saw the video. It was like Climo, Schwebby, Steve Rico, Barry maybe, and it was like the first time I'd seen real like professional throwers, and that is what set me off. And I was like, oh, I want to do this. And I started paying attention to putting, and I started paying attention to more things. It was, the first video that I saw that made me realize what the discs were capable of. That's when I started to get pumped up about it. But again, like where I was from, there were no juniors players. I was really one of the only, kids my age playing. So it was hard to get insanely excited about it because Junior Worlds wasn't as big as it is now. It was just, the landscape was a lot different. You could go up and sign up for an A tier the day of in open, and you'd be fine. But, so I loved it, and I always threw, and I was always going to that field across the street, and I was always grinding on skills. Like, I was throwing really far. Like in 2013, I tied double G at World's Distance, and I was booming the Frisbee back then. But when I was a kid, that's all I cared about was distance and chucking it. And I didn't start taking it more seriously until I got super burnt out from Ultimate. I thought when I was going to college, I was going to play Ultimate and be super sick because I had all these crossover skills. And I just also hated Ultimate. I hated that there was a lot of bad blood in Ultimate. There was a lot of physical contact, and I don't know. I just hated when people were overly physical because to me, Frisbee is not about that. And there's all sorts of fights, and then again, I worked my way to a captain spot, and the stress behind that was just burned me out. So I couldn't wait to get back to a solo game. And then after I graduated, disc golf it just was so refreshing. It was like going into the hot tub and then jumping into a nice, cool swimming pool afterwards. It was like so refreshing to get back into disc golf more seriously. But I've been playing all through college. I played disc golf every day, but I wasn't like grinding tournaments or anything like that.
Okay.
What puts you on the grind? What puts you out there?
That feeling when you wake up and it's 6:30 in the morning and your alarm's going off, and you have to go to work, and you forgot to respond to that email to that client that hates you, and you don't want to talk to that client, but you have to go into the office, and you hate your life, and the amount of money you're making doesn't matter.
Sure.
That's what kind of got me fired up about it. I kind of had this feeling. I was recently broken up with a girl in like 2014, I believe, and I was post college just after graduating. And so I moved out of where we were living, and I was making crap money, and my apartment was like pretty much the size of this this room that we're sitting in, and I was like, this is so stupid. What am I doing? I had to sell my TV to the pawn shop to buy groceries, and I was like, I'm working hard at a regular job, and I can't afford any of this crap. So what am I doing? Like, why don't I just go for it? I read the book. I was recommended the book, The Alchemist. I forgot who recommended it to me, but LeBron James has read it and said it was like deeply inspiring. It's a very simple story, but I read it at the right time in my life, and the whole book is it's like this tale of like this shepherd who finds his personal destiny, and all these challenges in life come his way, and he like learns all these lessons, and it just hit me in these weird ways, and I was like, this is so dumb. Why am I laying here on an air mattress on a floor? Because I don't have money or space for a real bed, and so that's why I started getting into I called my buddy and was like, hey, does your company have a better paying job where I can talk to people? Because I think I'm good at that. My degree doesn't is not going to cover it, but I'm good with people. And he's like, yeah, I think I can get you in, and you could probably work your way up. So I got a phone interview with his company, Disc Golf Connection as well, which is amazing. Shout outs to Roman. And I pretty much just gave this company the same thing I just gave you, and they were like, "We like you. Like, come in." And I started at the very bottom in customer service for this like tech startup company, and I saved my money as aggressively as I could, and I had all these goals like get to 1,000 rated, get sponsored, do this, do this, do this, start teaching lessons, blah blah blah, and then all the check marks started going off, and my job started to recognize where I was headed, and they were so gracious and encouraging, and 3 years, 2.5 years after working there, they sent me off, and that's where I'm at. But that's the feeling that made me want to push disc golf and really not ever look back. So,
well, man, I got to tell you, like, and this is, we talked about, well, I mentioned this off the air, but this is one of the parts of the show where I'll blow a little smoke up your ass. But,
alrighty.
Yeah, man. No, you're one. I mean, you have been, since I've met you, you have been one of my favorite people on tour. And
thank you, Will.
It's your energy, it's your positivity, and
thank you.
I've always found it very ironic, like, that your logo, the Bear Heart logo, and the whole slogan, Bear Heart, be Earhart.
Yeah.
But you have the heart of a bear, dude. Like, you have one of the biggest hearts.
Thank you.
Of all the people that I've actually gotten to know a little bit on tour, and it's always fun watching you play, because you are able to walk that line between wearing your heart on your sleeve and displaying what you're feeling and experiencing during your tournament play, but also not getting overly like pressed down by your emotions. And I've always just been a big fan of the way that you've conducted business and how you've carried yourself in competition. Mm-hmm. And
thank you.
Yeah, man, I think it's awesome, and it really does. It makes a difference for the sport, because Tanner Stringer, the kid that came out and played with us on Sunday, I knew that you were one of his favorite players, and because he's always wearing the Bear Heart stuff and the Wonder stuff, and he's mentioned
he was a nice kid, man.
Yeah, and he's doing a lot of cool stuff, man. He's young. He's got a cool YouTube channel. He made a bunch of like cool preview videos at MCO for the A tier side of the course and stuff, or the tournament for the AMs and stuff. So, but yeah, you have that kind of a following because of your energy. So it's really cool to see you becoming almost like the voice of like a new voice of disc golf, because you've gotten into podcasting. Obviously, the buzz started. About over a year ago,
and a half ago,
a year and a half ago, and you have a really interesting format. It's just you and guests. Audio is very high quality, which always helps. But you have this interesting structure to the podcast where you're really digging out the meat of a person that's operating within
digging their meat out. Yep.
Yeah. Like, you get to have these conversations. And I mentioned this, but it's our approach to it is, let's be real casual and loose and open, and let's have fun with it, and just see where the conversation goes, and let the person's personality and inner character kind of shine through. But I don't know, man. I don't really know how to explain it, but I feel like you have a structure. You ask questions that you have put thought into before you do the show. And it still feels casual. Like, you are able to lead a person very naturally through describing their not only their experience with disc golf, but their life story.
Yeah. Well, it's fun for me because I'm deeply inspired by all of the people that I tour around with every week. Every touring disc golfer has a story. No one just wakes up one day and says, you know what, Frisbee is the life for me. That's it. I'm casting away everything, all the societal norms, and I'm going to do this. Like, no one has a boring story, no matter how boring they come across. And I think it's very important to show that to the world right now. I think we have, a generation of kids growing up that I think are starting to learn that you don't have to follow the traditional path in life. The world is opening up opportunities that we didn't have before. And I think it's just a beautiful thing to show young kids, but also people that were working in situations like I was. I was deeply unhappy, even though I was at a company where everybody else around me seemed overjoyed, but I didn't feel safe living that safe life. And I think digging out, like you said, the context is a very important thing, and I don't think we get that in traditional disc golf media, which is fine. It was something that I wanted to exist, so I made it exist. I had a lot of friends, and I have there's no barrier between me and sending a random text to Kevin Jones saying, dude, that shot I saw you throw across the course was beautiful. What was that? You know, like I really love these people, and I'm deeply inspired by how they play the game and how they carry themselves. So I just, in the beginning, it was just interviewing my friends because I didn't know these things about them. When I'm hearing things from Eagle say that, you know, or I think Joel Freeman told me that he was a sponsored mountain unicyclist, and he was a breakdance teacher, and like there's some people that come from really cool walks of life, and we don't really hear that. So
Wait
I
a
think
second, back up. What'd you say?
Joel Freeman was a sponsored mountain unicyclist.
Yeah, that part. Sponsored mountain unicyclist.
So it's a heavy duty unicycle with like a thick tire, and he was going up in the mountains and doing jumps and like, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but there's so like Kevin Jones going to Nicaragua when he was 18 years old and putting into a towel.
Yeah.
He would hang a towel over the clothesline in Nicaragua, and that's what he put it into. You know, that's cool, man.
And I think that's what really makes people fall in love with this game.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right now, well, especially it's a main drawing point is that the pros are not only so accessible, but they're so like multifaceted. There's so much more going on there than is readily available like on screen when you're watching a tournament coverage.
Do you think that'll change with all the growth?
Yes.
I think it'll have to.
Yeah,
That's why I want to create this archive. I think my next goal for next season is to, you know, once I launch like a Patreon, any money that comes in is just going to go towards me getting a plane ticket to go fly to Clearwater and interview Ken Climo, or fly to LA and interview, you know, Juliana Korver. I want to make sure that these stories are documented in a place, in a little archive, so that when disc golf does blow up, I think it, because the whole point of the podcast switching that direction was I was driving the Discraft RV and I was like, I would love to hear an hour-long free-form conversation with Jack Nicholson.
Sure.
Or not Jack Nicholson, Jack Nicklaus.
Jack Nicklaus.
Either one.
Common
Really.
mistake.
Nicholson,
Either one,
maybe.
right?
But like
That would be cool too.
But like old golfers like Sam Snead, you know, just I don't know, there's just like so
Greg
many.
Norman.
Yeah, like the pioneers of like a new era of golf. Those stories are there, but not in the format that I want them to be. So I'm going to try to do that with disc golf.
Well, you're onto something because
Trying.
major sports have started to go that route now. You're starting to get all those extra features and
they're
knowledge.
beautiful. They're
They
amazing.
are. And it's extra. It's going to be big in the disc golf world, just like you were talking about.
Yeah.
And it probably draws people more because so many people are drawn to the community aspect.
Yeah, definitely.
The 30 for 30.
So I think
I love the 30 for 30
30 for 30 is
format.
the best sports docu-series like you could ever ask for.
When I watched that Last Dance with Michael Jordan, that one, I got chills, man.
I'm
I
bittersweet
loved
with
it.
that. I was
Oh,
a
that's
jazz
amazing.
fan.
Oh, were you?
Oh, damn.
Sorry, man.
The first 8 episodes
Sucks
were
to be
wonderful,
you.
and then the 10th or 9th, 10th, 11th were
I'm
little
a
rough on
jazz
me.
fan.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you guys. I'm a jazz.
I was a jazz fan. I was a basketball player. I played point guard.
I
liked
can't
John
be a part of
Stockton.
this conversation.
And he was the best point guard, you know,
Stockton.
probably one of the best
Respect.
point guards that ever walked the face of basketball, I guess you'd
Definitely got under the skin of the Bulls a few times,
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
say. For sure. But Jordan is definitely, his respect is due. And I don't dislike the man. It's still, you know.
You're salty.
A nice.
I was in 6th grade, so you
feeling
talk
some
about
kinda way,
when,
Jay?
when you cry, like when you were that age and you missed a putt.
Yeah.
I literally 2 years in a row bawled to my mother because
The Jazz.
we lost.
Oh,
The
man.
George- yeah.
Oh,
I was-
bless his heart.
It was basketball my whole life. From like literally one of the first gifts I ever got was
Mm-hmm.
a basketball goal, Larry Bird,
Let's go.
and so it's like 2 all the way to college, freshman year of college, and then I hit a burnout phase as well. But that was all it was.
Yeah.
So I was just as passionate. And when kids have that passion, and they're basically forced outside because
Yeah,
they can't
yeah.
be around people, it's going to grow and grow and grow and grow.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that being in the forefront of getting those stories and being able to put those out there, you're kind of setting yourself up for a retirement, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I just making something that I want to exist right now, and it's starting to feel more like a responsibility. I'm starting to get some really good feedback on the show, and now that Lindsay's a huge podcast geek and knows so much more about audio and so much more about how like successful podcasts and how they format things, and that's where like that polished audio is coming in. Lindsay's a genius. She's so good at editing, and I was okay at it, but like I finish the audio, click, send it to her, and she's just next day like bloop, 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 cut, snip. Like I like the open format as well, but I like snipping out a section like
where we talk about the Jazz.
Yeah.
That was good content.
Well, no, I mean, like I
personal
can,
story to me.
as a person with audio background, like I can see where the cuts are happening.
Yeah.
Like just because I know how to recognize it, I don't think it's readily
it's just
apparent.
Dead space. Yeah. We
I
just cut the likes, like if somebody has a bad like nah, we'll just snip that. But I'm not cutting content really, unless it's
no
a really bizarre story that is a little inappropriate. I've only had to do that a couple times. But Reply All is a podcast that I'm very inspired by from a audio standpoint, that the way they clip their show is very clean.
Yeah.
That's the style that I like. I don't like a lot of fluff. I like the message to be delivered really nicely and like polished in a nice way.
I mean, you have a really nice package and a nice bow on it, because you even your
nice
music.
Package.
Yeah, it's a nice package, bruh.
Yeah,
nice package. Hey, I like your cut, G.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man. No, I'm saying like from the music from the intro music. It's like it's this whimsical, unique, very striking. Like whoa, it's this melody that it's almost like hitting blue notes. It's almost like triggering little things that makes your brain go, wait, what? What's going on here?
A new one
with this
starting.
sound?
Yeah,
and then you have it broken up. The introduction is very clean. It's all very relaxing.
Yeah,
and for me, when I'm listening to podcasts, I'm trying to relax my brain. I'm trying to be like, okay, I'm working. I'm kind of stressed out. I don't really want to be doing this right now, but I've got this podcast that I'm listening to, and so I can kind of zone out.
Yeah,
just and your podcast does that very, very well.
Thank you. We're getting there. We're having fun with it. We're having a lot of fun with. It's nice to break up to me, endless competition is monotonous.
Yeah,
the just constant stress and like pressure. Some people, like Yuli, if that ever went away for him, I don't know what would happen if he stopped competing in things. I think he would just wither away. But for me, I have to like cut that with something. So the creative project is nice to have for sure.
When did you? I mean, have you always been a fan of podcasts, or when did it like occur to you? Man, you know what? I think I could probably do a pretty good podcast.
Post college, like after school, once I got my degree, is when I started wanting to learn.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I luckily got out of school and I made it, but it was just that desire for like real knowledge and a real understanding of perspective in the world and where I stand in the world. So I got more interested in history, and I got more interested in philosophy and politics, and hearing other people's stories and where they come from. And podcasts are so perfect for that. Like, it's just an endless amount of real knowledge that's not like a 10-second soundbite that could be taken out of context. I love hearing someone's full context and perspective on something, and being able to make an educated opinion about it, and feel confident that I actually learned something. So it's actually really awesome. My younger brother is just starting to get into podcasts, so it's like exciting for me.
That's
like,
awesome.
Here's this one and this one and this one and this one. There's a lot of amazing things out there. But yeah, it's like turning into my new favorite like medium. But doing one I was touring with Yuli, and it was originally going to be me and him, but then he tore his ACL and he had to go home, so that's why I started reformatting the show. We were originally going to do it like a sports psychology podcast, where we just break down each week. Like,
I remember you talking, because we had you on the podcast. I came over there to Ryan and Abby's house, and we had like you and Conrad and Paige and everybody.
It was going to be a lot different if he stayed around. We were just going to do like a super in-depth like micro analysis of these weird situations, and it was going to be cool. But
yeah, I heard that podcast was real fun.
But with just me and Yuli?
No, the guys at
oh yeah,
Abby's.
yeah.
I had like
when I was
blast.
way on my amateur game, and I had like one Yeti mic, and I just sat it on the island.
Hell yeah, that was
in Ryan and Abby's kitchen.
That was more of what I was getting at.
We just huddled at. I mean, dude, it was super crap. But
that was a good time.
Well, he just came back.
He was
like, man, it was just I don't want to talk about it.
I'm not good in that scenario.
Yeah.
But no, man, like it's great because you find this rhythm almost automatically and very naturally and organically where you lay out some hard facts, some stats, some details, and then you give this player that everybody's interested in a chance to provide their perspective on what they were experiencing mentally and emotionally as they were creating that data. And it's super interesting. And you really you're able to capture like the personality, the spirit that's unique to each individual player.
Thank you. Yeah.
How many hours of research have you spent to ask proper questions or host or to do
It
interviews?
depends on the player. Sometimes you hear like weird stories like in the through the grapevine, just touring and whatnot. Like I'm trying to get Matt Bell on an episode. I heard through the grapevine that Matt Bell legitimately counts the revolutions on his putts based on distance. So he'll step up to a certain distance and go, "Yeah, that's going to be 2 revs." But so like,
how big of a putter does he throw with?
it's a 2, 3 feet.
It's like a trash can lid.
Counting revolutions.
I don't know, but things like that you hear through the grapevine, and sometimes I love these little side segments I do sometimes. Where if I hear a weird bit of information, I'm just like, just tell me about that. Other times I'm very inspired by the guy, the Hot Ones guy on YouTube. You know his show.
Shawn Evans.
Yeah, he's crazy prepared. He he shocks his guests every time. These like high profile celebrities that have been asked every question.
He's like, how'd you know about that?
But then he'll like pull out an album from like 1980 that they know. They're like, oh my, where did you get that? And he's like, I have my reason. But that's cool because then you really get the human side of somebody.
So that was awesome, by the way, and very insightful. So what I meant was how much research you personally have done to like be that interviewer that Will's talking about, or be that fluent with your questioning, or how you take your.
You have taken communications classes and studied communications.
Asking,
yeah. Or I mean, if not, then you certainly seem like you have.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was asking. Is that a natural thing?
I see. I thought you meant per episode.
No. That was good content, though.
No, honestly, like the commentary and the podcast are mutually beneficial because I practice my public speaking for both of them, and I struggle pretty hard on the microphone. I'm working. Every word I say here is my brain is trying to.
I have the same issue.
But it just, if you just let go and have fun with it, I found that I've just gotten better and better and better, and you learn through trial and error. Like I like to dump the Legos out and throw the instructions away and start building, and when me and Yuli recorded our first episode, we looked at each other and we were like, we have one Yeti snowball, one microphone, and we're at this dirty truck stop, and there's trucks flying by, and we can hear it through the microphone, and we were like, let's just start. Let's just do something and have fun.
We did that for a year and a half, 2 years, man.
Dude,
like
it's liberating. It's
it sounds
feeling.
like shit, but it's just it's people having authentic conversations.
Yeah, but you made something. That that feels damn good, and you're a good person. You're a kind person, so like that's a good thing that you did. No matter how much preparation you put into it, you'll learn the fancy little nuances. But if you're a good person and you put something out into the world, that's good.
Yeah, and I feel
inherently good.
And I feel like we've kind of paralleled because we just recently rebranded our podcast from the Music City Disc Golf Podcast to The Last Cash, and you went from the Buzz to the Flight Diary.
Yeah.
And dude, the Flight Diary.
Simple, clean.
I think
thank you.
How could you ever, dude? Yeah, obviously I'm a fan. Smoke up, yeah, I'm blowing smoke. But like, dude, seriously, like, what better name could you ever possibly come up with for a disc golf podcast?
Something that you can dust off, right?
It
you dust
perfectly
it off.
encompasses what you do too.
Silly
because
stories, yeah.
It's like you have this personal time with this influential person within the world of disc golf, but they're revealing their personality, like. Their heart, their soul, within the sport, and what lights their fire, what they're passionate about, and you are archiving it.
Yeah, we're trying to capture that, and I think it'd be cool one day to have say I do get all the big names that I want to get. How cool would it be to have a physical diary that you have a chronological order? You go back. And probably someone like you could help me work on a timeline at down the road. I mean, you toured during a really cool time in the game. But like, I think it'd be amazing to put something like physical together, have an illustrator create it, and I think it'd be a cool thing while you're taking a crap on the toilet. I think it would just be a cool thing to have. And some of these, if you guys, anyone who listens to this podcast, if you go to mine and you listen to the episode with Yuli where he tells his story, he's talking about climbing through a doggy door in somebody's house to sleep for the night because he was, semi-homeless and was, hustling poker to make money to make ends meet prior to touring. Like, that kind of stuff is beyond sport. That's human. That's just the human condition, and more people than disc golfers experience that. And I think it's inspiring. The time that we're in disc golf, because we have people that live that way. We don't have people sponsored by Rolex and Mercedes and all these fancy companies where they never have to worry about money ever again. We only have a handful of people like that in our game.
Yeah.
So we're still in a cool time where it's still love of the game. It's still
and it's still tight knit,
trying to make something beautiful
grassroots.
happen. Yep.
Small niche community.
It's cool.
I mean, here's a perfect example. The first league I ever played, Paul's brother Pete ran in Sholo, Arizona.
Nice.
The guy that got me into disc golf used to teach at Jefferson Academy where Paul went to school.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And so there's that whole connection where it's like, they say the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Oh, yeah.
Well, with disc golf, it's like 3 degrees.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody's got some story that connects to some person, that connects them to another person. And it's always fun when you show up at big events. Like, for me, it's the glass blown open, and you run into all these people that you've interacted with online and stuff. And then you get to have these conversations and get to know each other on a more personal level, and you find out all the different ways that your lives and your journeys
are weirdly
are
the same.
tied together. Yeah. And parallel. Yeah, for sure.
So I wanted to go way back to when you were talking about interviewing these people that are your friends.
Yeah.
And you truly consider these touring pros your friends. Obviously, back when I was playing, it was a lot less touring pros, but we weren't friends. We didn't hang out. Mm-hmm. You went to the course, shook their hand, played your round, shook their hand, and got out of there. We weren't hanging out afterwards.
Yeah.
We weren't doing stuff. So I've seen it in person, going to all the events with PDGA and stuff, and I can say it's completely changed, but just curious if that is genuinely a thing, that people really are friends and hanging out.
Yeah, I think I noticed a couple of years ago when I first started touring, there were more cliques, I guess you could say, like more people that kind of banded together, and there were like different groups of people. Now that's kind of dissipated a little bit, and there's like smaller groups of people that kind of travel together, but I think it's because there's just getting to be more money in the game. And, I just remember I'm close with Chris Sprague, and he has all sorts of old stories of, people calling ridiculous foot faults back in the day and trying to get in people's heads because each putt that you stepped up to, you were like, okay, this is maybe worth $50 and I need to eat, and I've only sold 6 stickers today. So it's just, it felt like just listening to those stories, just kind of like a dog eat dog world out there. So it makes sense to me. I've heard Climo's straight up gamer. Like, he will do anything it takes to get in your head. And I get that.
Yep. I've told the story to a ton of people. First time Masters Cup in the 90s, made it on the lead card, second round, Climo's there, just nervous as all get out, but I was on my game. I'm putting, making everything. Back then it was 27 holes. Mm-hmm. We're like 18 holes in, and we're walking down maybe like I-5 or something, and Clem was like, man, you are putting unreal today.
Oh, he hits you with that?
Yeah, he's like, have you been working on your putt? He's like,
I've heard of Paul doing that stuff too.
That's such an insult.
He's
have you been working on it?
Yeah,
you're actually good at putting today.
Yeah, he's like, I haven't seen you putt this good in a long time. Amazing. And I'm walking up to like a 32 footer with a cliff of death behind it, and I'm just like, Climo thinks I'm a good putter. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I gotta run it, right?
Just little crap like that. And then nowadays, if somebody said that to me, like in tournament, I would be so upset. Like, I feel like
I think
that kind of stuff doesn't happen as much anymore. The gaming, there are people that'll do it. Like,
there was
it's a
major
generational
gaming.
thing. I think.
Yeah,
Definitely got to be a generational thing. You look at the guys growing up, or our I guess my father, and your guys' dad, and you guys, or you for sure. Just a different generation, a different type of hardness, if you will, lack of a better word. But when you look at today's generation and the kids who are playing and the younger folks, there's a lot more acceptance. There's a lot more togetherness, and it's been from society and just kind of my opinion, personal human evolution. Human beings. It's gone a lot slower than I was hoping. 2021, and we got a lot of issues, but there's a lot more acceptance, I think.
Yeah.
And I think you see a lot of that with in the game itself. I think with all the friendships, like you were talking about, everybody, you're giving high fives, even though that guy just crushed the shot and you shanked a
Kevin.
tree.
Yeah,
you're like, dude, great shot.
Kevin
Absolutely.
will shake with excitement if you throw a cool shot. I remember I flicked a comment on hole 7 Iron Hill, which you don't really do. It's a stupid shot, but it's this tight downhill tunnel, and it's easy lefty hyzer if you want to throw that shot. But at the time, Comet Flick was my favorite shot. So
Sure.
Standstill, Comet Flick, 320 down the hill, parked. And I turn around and Kevin is in the air, airborne, yeah! He's like, what was that? What the hell? We have that in our game, but when it comes down the stretch, it's not, puppies and rainbows.
Sure.
They'll argue a call to an annoying point. There's multiple players that when it comes down to it, final round, and there's moves to be made, they're hard asses. I'm not going to say that they're trying to game the system. I've heard a lot of stories similar to the Climo thing that you just said. You're not going to get that. It's like when you watch The Last Dance with Jordan. And I equate Jordan to Climo quite a bit. They just have that athletic. They just think differently as an athlete. Like Jordan loved winning so much that he would make up things. He would make up trash talk that people would extend to him, just so he'd have a chip to beat their ass, beat him up in the next game. And it sounds like Climo was kind of similar. Like he was just different thinker athletically. I don't know if we have someone like that right now.
One of the first big pro tournaments I went to was back then it was the National Doubles in Round Rock, Texas.
Oh, sick.
Flew out from California with my partner in 98. Played the first round, ended up on the lead card with two of the best players in the world. I won't say their names, but we were playing the temp course, and the two of us were throwing thumbers and big hyzers, and we were just playing super well. And we were playing this tunnel shot, and both of us just up the middle parked it, and this top player shanked early, and as he's coming off the tee, he gets about 6 inches from my face and goes, "Don't get happy."
Love it, man.
And I was like, "Whoa, welcome to Texas."
I'm telling you, they're just harder back then.
You can say also that social media, if social media existed back then too, can I swear?
There would be a lot more people.
Absolutely.
The shit talk would probably be somewhat similar.
Or worse.
But that's the thing. If you do something, say someone calls me on a petty foot fault that is not even a foot fault.
Does that happen now? Still?
There's certain players that will do that.
Gotcha.
But I think we're gonna timestamp this right now. Mark this moment in time. In the next 5 years, there's going to be a foot fault Armageddon. I think. I'm not kidding.
Armageddon.
We're pulling out our tripod stools and we're going to battle. We're braining each other. We are throwing golden retrievers through the air and
in the fairway throwing or putting, jump putting.
Kind of a mixture of all of them.
I think everybody should be more willing to make calls and be more willing to have calls made on them.
Well, that's the thing. It's an old argument of it's too close to call.
Yeah.
But we're starting to see, and I'm just watching. I'm
well,
not
most
of
it happens when people are
it.
watching coverage after the fact,
yeah.
and you can't call it if it's.
But I think fundamentally, there are some styles of putt, and the one that I see the most, and again, I'm not condemning anybody because everyone does it.
Yeah.
There's a style of long jump putt that is fundamentally a foot fault. It's like a jump shot in basketball. You don't shoot and then jump.
You're in the air and let go.
So a lot of these 200-foot jump putts, they're not legal, and I have a feeling
a jump throw.
Yeah, I have a feeling that eventually it's going to take a few players, young players that aren't biased towards how things have been done, to be like, that's not right. That's not how it goes. And I think eventually people are going to have to go back and learn how to spin a Frisbee from 200 feet. And I think, we're going to mark this in time, I think one-speed discs are going to, like get what Garrett's doing. I think they're going to make a weird comeback in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
So you're
absolutely.
I hope.
Just to get clarification, when you 200 feet out, 100 feet out, and you jump putt, your foot still has to be touching the ground.
Oh, yeah.
When you let go of that disc.
Think about when you're throwing a fairway shot.
Sure.
You know, you're pivoting and you're throwing, and then you pivot, right? You pivot past your lie, but you're still on a pivot. You know,
Every single shot in the game, Jay.
What about?
You have to have a supporting
Yep.
point behind.
Sure,
Mark.
absolutely.
Well,
I get
I
that.
remember-
Well, that's what I'm confused by, because I feel like what you're talking about are people who probably more predominantly spin putt from that range.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
Okay, well, I'd take a jump putt or
There's some
a jump shot style putt as well from outside.
Yeah, like the straddle jump putt. A lot of times,
no straddles.
Well, what,
Oh,
what
okay.
the basketball reference is, it's like a double clutch. So you're
Well, you can double clutch if you don't touch the ground.
no, you have to be on the ground when you release.
yeah.
Right.
Are you talking about a shot fake?
No, I'm saying a double clutch where you go and normal people jump and it's all one continuous motion. But
Gotcha,
some
gotcha.
of people, what he's talking about, they're going here, jump, and then throw it.
Yeah, and
Different terminology.
it's right after, and the disc comes out of the hand right after they jump. And
I gotcha.
and it's, but the argument is, oh, it's too close to call. But I've gone back, and again, I don't care enough right now to be the person to start this Armageddon, right?
Sure.
But I'm just saying, I've been watching, and there are big names in disc golf, big names that are experiencing wild success from Circle 2, throw-ins, and
it's really
50-50.
easy to tell when you see
It's
pictures and video
50-50.
from the
Yeah, well
event
said.
afterwards.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it's really hard to tell. Even if you have the best
Yeah.
angle and you're down low to
So-
the ground and you're looking and trying to
Yeah.
catch them, it's hard to tell.
But
If-
when you look at the kinetic chain and you think about how the movement works, eventually it's going to take someone, to set a standard. Like, if you putt like that or you throw like that, I'm going to call it. And the moment that becomes a thing, then they have the advantage.
Yep.
Well, what do you do to police it on your side? Do you, or Marcus? I want to you're talking about slow motion, like throw a penalty.
It's
throw
a bigger
penalty flag.
conversation.
You would have
that
to
needs be
outlaw the
had.
jump putt.
I think
Well,
it would
you-
just
you
need to be a
can.
bigger conversation.
Because where do you jump putt from? Then you're outlawing
Yeah.
from the fairway. I have a solution.
Let's
Let's
Oh,
hear it.
Is it something we can talk about? Because I've been thinking a lot about it.
Oh,
as
Hey,
well.
how about this?
This-
I really need to go to Tingletown. Could we take a quick break?
Absolutely.
No?
After the break, we'll get into Shawn's explanation of why you can't outlaw the jump putt.
All right.
Oh, that'd be a good comeback.
All right.
Shawn,
I like
you tell him. No, I'm just kidding.
Jay, you're always the one that asks for a break. I'm asking for a break this one time.
with you.
We've done an hour. It's a perfect time to take a break. Don't give me any
I've
guns.
some research recently. Like, I've watched some videos. And
I'll be right back, you guys.
That's gonna be just about right.
Yeah. Good shot.
Get through.
Got it!
Field goal.
There you go. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I've hit the button again.
It's your first day.
So we're back.
All right.
Hey, welcome back, guys. We have had an opportunity. Well, I've had an opportunity to go to the little boys' room, and
Good for you.
now we have coffee and
you're a big boy.
cold water and all sorts of refreshments.
Oh, yeah.
And we're back to continue the conversation. So,
We left off with Shawn.
Shawn, tell us why we can't outlaw the jump putt.
Well,
Let's just open a big can of worms. No, we left off with talking about how the disparity of, you
Too
see-
close to call.
Yeah, and you see these screenshots from round coverage at all the big tournaments, and the most prominent players in the world are 3 feet past their lie as the disc is coming out of their hand, and it all happens so quick when you're in the moment and you're there watching the card play, but it's real easy to pause in round coverage. And
Well, what is your take on it? Do you think it's something that should be?
my take on it, and I remember the first year that I ever played the Bowling Green Amateur Championships. It was maybe a month before the tournament, and I went up to Bowling Green with Ed Birdie and Curtis Schreiber, and we met and played Lover's Lane, Ephraim White, and Holler in the Hills in the same day.
Wow.
Yeah, it dang near killed me, but I was less fat than I am now and less old. But I remember at that point in my development within disc golf, I was still jump putting. And there was the first couple times I had done it from outside the circle at Lover's Lane. And Ed, for anybody that knows Ed Birdie, very wise man, very, very nice, kind person. And he kind of watched me for a little while. And then at one point when nobody else could hear, he kind of pulled me aside and he said, "Stand and deliver. Stand and deliver." He's like, "You're introducing a whole lot more variables in your stroke when you put that much
Of course.
vertical movement into your putt." And he's like, "So you're introducing more things that you can't control. So stand and deliver." And I took that advice to heart, and I stopped jump putting immediately. And I've hit. I've honestly, I would, obviously I don't play many tournaments, but I would say that my circle 2 percentage is higher than my circle 1 percentage because I've stopped jump putting since then.
So you've gotten better.
I've been
since
able
you
to
switched.
figure out how to use my lower body to add more power and
Do you put the
distance.
same pressure on yourself at circle 2 as you do at circle 1?
Probably not. If I were to guess at it, obviously right now it's hard to put myself in the position of staring down a putt, but I definitely miss a lot of circle 1 putts and stuff that I should make, especially considering that I make so many from 50 feet.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I feel like a lot of that, and I do that a lot, it's like you're supposed to make the ones at circle 1, so there's that pressure immediately. This is the one I was supposed to make. Everybody else is going to make this one.
Yeah.
And then the ones at 50 feet, kind of like a three-point shot, the percentage drops off so much. At 50 feet, chances are, in your head, more than likely not going to make it anyway, so what's it matter? Give this thing a run. And then turns out you nail a bunch of them because you're not really concerned with missing, or in a sense. I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but when you talk about that being better sometimes from circle 2 than circle 1, I wonder if we put too much pressure on ourselves at that closer range than we do from outside.
Other thing, you said stand and deliver, and I think the part of bringing the extra movement in is what makes it's easier in the beginning to stand and deliver, and it's more consistent. But the moment you get better at using your body weight to jump putt, you put all this time into controlling that, then it becomes this deadly weapon. We see the best putters in the world
Absolutely.
from circle 2,
Paige,
all of
Ricky,
nasty
yeah.
jump putts. I guess what I've when we first started this conversation, I want Shawn to kind of go into what he thinks, just being so close to the development of the game competitively. So if you are jump putting and it's blatantly illegal, just kinetic chain wise, it's not legal. The problem here is the self-officiating. If we had officials in disc golf, you wouldn't be able to do that. But there's the grassroots, like bad blood, social media, like, lashing out of like having the reputation of being like the rules Nazi, and there's mental warfare happening because we have to make these calls. And the penalty, you can't just go up to and go, just a heads up, watch your feet. That doesn't happen anymore. Like, you can't, and if you do that, now that's also seen as kind of a mental jab. So you risk, really getting into something you don't want to get into. So it's like, too close to call, whatever. But if we had officials, like Tiger Woods, I remember 2-3 years ago, got called on a violation because someone was watching on TV and saw him make the mistake or something like that. And
true.
They have to play the game the way it's supposed to be played. And I watch so many players that work their butt off. Haley King, who was the best C2 putter on tour, I believe, noticed her putt was illegal and changed it. And it's totally legal now. She uses her same stroke and just lets that back foot come through as a result of momentum.
She almost leaves her back foot on the ground.
Yeah. And I would love to see the game evolve that way. But I hate that the only reason why people are able to get away with this is the self-officiating and that element of it. Well,
that's a really good point that you bring up with your self-officiating. Why are you self-officiating and trying to compete at the same time? It's hard to do when you, and then to add, if you do call a foot fault, it has to be seconded.
Yeah, because I'm emotionally invested. Like, I'm playing against these people, and then
But are you always watching them every one of their shots?
I mean, you can nowadays. I've paid enough attention to know like what putt structurally is not. It's not going to work.
I got you.
But I'm not ready to have a big structural conversation about this overarching thing that's built up over the years in our game. I don't feel like in the middle of a tournament it's time to address that type of foot fault, because it's easier when somebody pivots on their mini in the fairway. That's way easier to call because there's objective evidence there. But when you have to bring in like context and relativity and like all this, like, well, it's your opinion, man, and it's not. So it's just a conversation that the pros need to have eventually, or some really bold young players, going to come up and be like, I will use this to my advantage, and I'm going to be cold about it,
And a little point of contention with the PGA, they don't have officials on every single hole. They typically have like 2 officials available for the entire tournament. They're on, cell phone walkie-talkies and have carts available, and they're there in 2 seconds. But that sport is completely self-officiated, but it's really hard to compare because they're not dynamic. They're static. Yes, they're moving.
You're right.
But, they could stand on one foot and hop. All they have to do is hit the ball.
You're right about that.
They don't have to hit a point with their feet. So it's a little different. But I just wanted to say they are self-officiated.
How do you feel when you call somebody? And okay, so let's say they did foot fault and you called them for foot fault and you go to the next hole. How do you feel after that hole?
I was a part of one at Jonesboro. Philo and I were on a card. Guy from Michigan was throwing and pivoted directly on his mini. Like, it was no question of foot fault. It was like second to last hole, and the worst part was he was making a push for the USDGC spot. Like, he was, and this was the weekend before the tournament, and he was like 5 down going into 17. Foot faults in the middle of the fairway. Philo turns to him and goes, stepped on your mini, man. And he looked at me, and I was like, well, crap, yeah, he did, And then the life fell out of him, and then he threw a terrible shot. And again, this is all on him at this point. You're supposed to be resilient, but they're just not called often.
Well, I mean, how do you feel when you call them and you know it's right? How do you feel? That's what I'm saying. Like, how did you and Philo feel afterwards? Like, did you play better? Did you play worse? Like, how did you feel?
I finished fine. I mean, the best part was I was only the second, and it was an objective fact that he foot faulted. He foot faulted. But I called one in my career in San Francisco, and the kid was furious, just absolutely. And again, he pivoted on his disc in the middle of the fairway. Yeah. He ended up taking a 7 on the hole, and then the rest of the round, he was just he would walk behind me and then be like literally right behind me on a couple shots, and it was this like petty warfare.
So how did it make you feel? Yeah.
I was like, this is not professional. Like, this is so annoying. Like, and then I hear he's bad mouthing me to people after the round, and like, I'm just like, what the hell,
like,
man?
That feeling right there. I think that's also the reason why people are afraid of calling,
I
because
just hate
afterwards, I've called somebody and I felt my game get worse because I called somebody and I felt like bad for calling them.
It's like-
I mean, it's the right thing to do,
If
but
it's-
it made my game worse, literally, because I called somebody and I was doing the right thing.
I feel terrible calling somebody for like if you lose a disc. It's like, oh man,
That's hard.
I'm sorry, but I gotta put.
That's why if I go timer, I'm hustling for those 3 minutes. Just so, like, if we don't find it, they know that I put everything I had into that.
Sure. I usually give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt and kind of
Yeah.
give them a little bit, but that's another one of those calls. Like
Yeah.
they take that as, oh, you're gonna put me on the clock.
Yeah, but I mean, that's objective, straight up. Like, if all
Sure.
people are looking, that's another one where, like, straight
you
boom, 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 time, boom.
Have you had the one guy? Most of the time, it's the guy who threw the shot and he's lagging. He's just slow.
Well, see, okay.
playing,
And-
waiting to get in there.
I want to build off that. Like, does
It's
it
like
matter
letting
like
you
what
guys
tier
look?
tournament it is when you're
No.
decided on? Okay, well, I mean, you can say no, but I mean, somebody can be like, oh, it's just a C tier.
I will be honest
Take as
with
long
you.
as you want. You know,
C tier.
you know, it shouldn't matter.
A rule's a rule.
A rule is a rule,
If
yeah.
you're playing at the league in
Yeah.
Seven Oaks and you're playing by PDGA rules,
Yeah.
you should be playing by PDGA rules.
Will, what do you think?
No, I totally agree. I mean, even at our bag tags that are unsanctioned,
Yeah.
you know, we enforce the rules
Yeah, he
of the PDGA.
He was mad at
So-
me one day for breaking rules.
Well,
He was 100% right. He was 100%
Beefing.
right. And I saw it.
but that's the thing, man. It's like there's either rules or there aren't. There can't be rules for some people and no rules
Yeah,
for other
you're right.
people. If you're going to enforce any kind of rules, they have to be enforced universally across the board, equilaterally, and there can't be any question. I mean, especially when you're dealing with an organization as big as Music City Disc Golf, and we've got near 400 members and
I don't think you
200 people coming out to play a bag tag. You know,
I think you just-
those people. The reason that we are as successful as we are is because of that consistency and that.
Sure.
You know.
I was playing a tournament, Hollering Hills. Guy lost his disc in the water. This is why I brought it up. He literally gets naked and goes into the water.
That's my man right there.
and
That's my
goes
man.
and finds his disc
All right.
and gets back dressed. And the whole time we're like, I don't know what to do, you know, because like I want to call him and be like, hey, you're disqualified. Or what would be the rule for that situation?
Was he
Like,
actually playing though naked?
oh yes.
As
Oh
long
wait, playing naked. No.
Is there a rule against that?
I was gonna say, he was swimming. Is there a rule against swimming naked?
There is a dress code.
there is a dress code rule.
Yes.
You may not be naked.
Yeah,
We should talk about.
but that's kind of a
Break yourself.
weird little thing because
Get butt naked.
is he actually throwing? I mean, think if you're going to a porta potty or something, you're getting naked. I mean,
Sure.
as long as he was within his 30 seconds of throwing and he wanted to go jump in the water, it's kind of a
That's
you
a
know,
fast strip down.
Yep.
That sounds like it
seconds.
would be one of the officials'
Yeah.
exam questions. Like, Billy got naked 17 seconds after losing his disc.
7 people saw his junk.
Could you imagine the emails you got? From
They were
that?
offended.
Oh, that was a hilarious
got-
round. Of
They
fun.
were not
But-
impressed.
But going back to the foot fault, quick foot fault conversation. Again, I think the last thing I'll say before I want to hear Shawn's solution to it, it's easier to call an objective, like when it's objective fact, like, hey, you pivoted on your mini. But it's way harder to have this abstract structural conversation. You said the same. You said something during the break, and that's there's the counterpoint of if you can't beat them, join them. But then there's also like, well, there's structures in place that I don't want to get abused. Like we were talking about during the break about Wilt Chamberlain used to dunk his free throws because there was a rule that you could jump shot your free throws, and technically he was following the rules, and it was the sport itself that was like, no. This is not the point of the free throw. The point of the free throw is to display a mid-range shot, and they're not trying to have you dunk it. And they changed the rule because of it, because they don't want it to get abused. And I think that's the reason it's hard to call someone like, well, technically, due to the kinetic chain, it's impossible that your shot.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that during a tournament. So
When Will just talked about the consistency, I think what he said answered kind of the thing. There's rules or there's not. And if you have that rule, maybe you take, like you were saying, take away the variable. Take away the what if. Oh, what if it's too close to call? Okay, we'll take it away.
yeah, it needs to be like just a higher level conversation amongst the pros. Like, hey, we're about to be on ESPN. We're about to be like in the public eye, and people are going to see it, the sport, and be like, These pros just all do this?
I have
like,
one question about that, actually.
Oh, okay.
Whose coverage is that going to the ESPN?
Jomez.
Joe, man.
It's all Joe
Okay.
Mess.
Jomez packages it up and then they ship it off to them.
My thing is
I
like
wanna hear-
it should become a cultural thing where if you're going to play at the professional level, you should be not only okay with making that difficult call, and even if it makes things awkward on the card, if somebody violates a rule and nobody else is calling it, I think everybody should be willing to step up and be the one that says, "Hey, you just violated this rule." And I'm speaking in specific terms.
Well,
But
and
at the same time,
the
you should also, that person that's willing to make the call should
Yes.
also be willing to have a call made on
Accept
them without reacting emotionally and like an adolescent. Good for nothing.
Yep.
So can we
So
get the
so as
switch
far
now?
as the jump putt, we were talking about the rules. You have to actually look at the rule as to why you would never be able to outlaw jump putts unless you outright said that all shots other than on the tee, you cannot proceed towards the basket without showing control, which is what we have from the 10-meter circle. So you can't just say, oh, no jump putts. Well, Eagle jump putts from 250 feet.
And that means you can't follow through either.
So
pretty much.
then if you outlaw jump putts, you're on a 1,000-foot par 5. Your run up, you're going to have to stop on your disc, and then you can't follow through. So that's the issue. So one solution is that no more follow through, stand and deliver, or if you do a run up, you got to show balance. But my idea that I've been toying around with for quite a few years is instead of a 10-meter circle or a 20-meter circle, just like in traditional ball golf, you've all seen the 150 markers or the 200 markers, or sometimes they just have a red blue stake in the middle of the fairway. So whatever arbitrary distance we decide on, 40 meters, 50 meters, 40 meters, 132 feet, I've always just kind of randomly used that. Okay. You just put 2 markers on either side of the fairway at 40 meters, 50 meters. If you are on the green side of the 40 meters, no follow through. If you're on the tee side, you can follow through. Doesn't have to be super accurate, People can get creative and put nice stones out eventually, or post or poles,
but it
or
would
whatever.
be specific per hole.
Yeah.
It would be 40 meters.
That's cool.
It would be 40
okay.
meters every hole.
I see. Okay.
And then the other question that comes up is, well, what if I throw it 132 feet or 50 meters past the hole? Sorry, you already passed the line. Stand and deliver.
Okay.
If you're playing Aspen and throw it 700 feet past the pin, stand and deliver. Sorry.
Okay.
But the idea that I've always had, and it's a little troubling that Eagles jump putting from 200 feet away.
Yeah.
But my point is, I don't care. If you're 132, 140 feet from the pin, if you want to jump putt, if you want to follow through, I don't really care. And as far as the line, we get out there on the 10-meter line and we're like, oh God, how close are they? Is it in? Oh, I'm not going to mark this. Oh, I'm going to mark it. Is it? It's a line. Look at it. Dealer's choice.
Yeah.
If you want to jump, I don't care. If you want to stand and deliver, I don't care.
Are you cool with them? I guess my thing is like you're saying is I'm fine with them, jump putting from 200 feet if their foot is behind the lie before they release, because otherwise you can abuse that, and that's when things start to just get ugly, and then there's that nasty gray area. So that's my thing. I'm fine with that style, but I want it's still supposed to be a hard shot, and I don't want it to be abused, and that's
so.
it.
I think the baby step progression to get away from what you're talking about is if all of a sudden everybody from 150 feet and in has to stand and deliver, they're going to learn how to throw a sonic and fluff it up there the way that Garrett's doing it. And so as people come up in the sport and learn,
they start seeing
it, they're not going to do a 250-foot jump putt.
And I think it's going to be a conversation amongst pros being like, this is, even if it was 3 players that were like, I'm tired of watching this. If you want to do it, it better be structurally legal. There's a lot of really, really solid jump, step, whatever putts there are. There's a lot of ways to do it. But
and just like you're saying
Yeah.
with the the slam dunk, it's a big departure
Yeah.
from 100% of all players
Yeah.
jump putting outside of circle one.
Exactly.
To now all of a sudden saying, cold turkey, no more doing
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
And that would be like saying, hey, no more slam dunking.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to shoot it.
It's a tough one to maneuver, but I think that's what I was saying. 5 years, 10 years. I think eventually it's going to take some bold players to just be like, nah.
I kind of see where you're at with the
Yeah.
slow disc coming back. when
Because
you're
that's
talking
beautiful to me.
well,
Yeah.
It almost separates or adds a fairway style
Yeah.
approach shot to the game, I guess, if you will. Because if you have to go standstill or just step into that shot with no follow through, you're adding like an actual fairway style or mid range approach shot,
And it preserves
rather
Frisbee.
than just a jump. I kind of get what you're saying with that.
Yeah.
So
I
a
get what you're
little
saying with that.
funny story that needs to go in your flight diary.
Okay.
Maybe you already knew this, but Dave Dunapace is a purist, and he wants the disc thrown. He doesn't want it slam dunked.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many years it's been now, 11, 12 years. They put in a waiver for USDGC that they were going to put like a 5-meter circle around every basket, which they still have some of those out there.
Okay.
You know, where they have the pavers with the
pavers.
little pebbles inside of them.
Yeah.
They were going to build one of those on all 18 holes. And if your disc came to rest inside of that circle,
It counted.
No.
Oh.
You had to pick it up and mark outside of them and then putt.
Oh, he thinks the tap in is lame.
Yes.
I see.
He
I
doesn't-
love that.
He doesn't want the slam dunk. And, you know, the PDGA at the time, whoever it was just like, this is
little too abstract.
This is not going to happen. And they were flabbergasted that it didn't, because they'd already started building these
Oh,
things.
yeah.
But the point was, imagine
That's wild.
you just got your 3 on 17 to preserve a 1-stroke lead going into 18, final day, final hole. You get your drive in the middle of the fairway. You get it up, sweet forehand around the corner, nestle it in the chips. You've got a putt for $15,000 on the scariest green in all of disc golf. The wind's ripping up that hill 20 miles an hour. And then they go, oh, no tap in for you for the win.
Yep.
You got to back up 15 feet.
Yeah. I see that, and that to me, if you earn that shot on the second shot, I'm all about the park job. I'm all about, I think the courses can be made harder where the park job is extremely, like 18 is a perfect example. If you park your second shot on 18 Winthrop,
You deserve it.
congratulations. Like, that's an amazing second
Well,
shot.
somebody who's got some brain power and a little bit of lawyer in them, you could argue that making a hole-in-one would be technically a 15-foot putt
Yeah.
because you're technically inside of that little ring,
Yeah,
which
that's
is kind of like what the disc golf or the World Tour did with the statistics.
Oh, yeah, like
with
the bullseye and whatnot.
and then you had no
Yeah.
circle one percentage.
yeah.
Let me ask you this, Shawn. So, with everything changing, man, I just totally lost my train of thought. What was I supposed to say?
Well,
Something was changing.
I got a hard-hitting question for our...
No. Here's what I was
Okay,
going to say.
I'll come back to it.
Yeah, hold that. Put a pin in that. I just found my train of thought. It was boarding at the station, and now everybody's on board, and we're moving out
Wonderful.
in the proper direction. So with us getting more legitimacy, and now you're seeing disc golf coverage showing up on major televised sporting networks and stuff like that. Do you think at some point we will move into a situation where the biggest events, at least at some level, have an official on every card, like a marshal or a somebody that is designated to make ruling decisions? Or
So that idea has always been around as long as I've been in the game.
That'd be hard.
Almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And it comes down 100% to money.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
each of you in this room, if I said, hey, I need you for 4 days at USDGC for 12-hour days to, stand on hole 14 the entire time, how much do you want to get paid? $20 an hour, $25 an hour.
Yeah.
I got to pay for your flight. I got to pay for your room and board.
Your
Plus
food.
plus pay you every day, multiply that times 18 or more if it's a par 4, par 5. It comes down to a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't that cross into like actually having to deal with labor and actually?
Can you just give me like a
employees?
huge tax write-off? That'd be awesome.
but I mean, even you're looking at what Masters week right now. The purse is
11 million.
11,500,000.
I mean, no big deal.
And they don't have officials on every hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's the Masters.
I don't think it'll ever happen. I think we could get
It's
to
just something I see tossed around on the
no,
internet.
I think we could get to a point. I mean, that's similar to kind of what I do with the PDGA is go to these events and we bring marshals to all of the the majors, and we have someone at least at every single course, and that's kind of what their job is. But I can see it as the Elite Series, Pro Tour, whatever, start to grow, and there's 2 or 3 people, just like officials for NBA. That's their only job. They get paid a salary and all their room and board and flight and all the stuff, and they just travel from event to event, and that's what they do. They go and walk the course, they learn the course, they got all their notes, they know everything, and they're there to officiate the event. But you're not going to sit there like an umpire on first base and
exactly. You make a good
watch the
point.
jump point.
The fact that the lie and how we address the lie is different in traditional golf and disc golf, and that's where the hairy part comes in, and that's why having 2 officials like golf has would not be as beneficial in disc golf, because like you said, in a beautiful perfect world, we have the people doing UDisc are somehow just master multitaskers and are watching everybody for stance violations and things like that, and just objectively call the shots. But again, I didn't bring this up because I'm like, the game is not being played pure. It's just it's something I'm fascinated by, the evolution of sports and how basketball, when Steph Curry started, they changed the way basketball was played, or how James Harden changed the way players get to the foul line, and they're literally influencing the rest of the game to play a certain way. And
the instant replay ruling.
We get the
exactly.
3 steps
And
instead
so
of 2.
I was gonna say that
Don't play defense anymore.
PGA golf, they allow
Eurostep.
review. They allow film review. There was that U.S. Open years ago, was it with Dustin Johnson, that was hit out of a bunker but didn't know it because it was all covered by people and whatever. They went and he brought him in, and they're like, here's the video. We don't allow video, and the reason we don't is because that goes down to a crazy rabbit hole.
Yeah.
That every single player is out. You got one guy teeing off and 3 people with cameras filming to make sure they're teeing off correctly, and then they're texting the TD and like, oh, I just saw this guy jump, but look, I've got the video, and it would get crazy.
Yeah.
So we're not to that point yet.
Well, talking about that point and Will's point about the growth and us being on TV right now, I would love to see this roll and snowball into disc golf being there.
Yeah.
I want to be real for just a second. How long does this last without COVID? Without, I mean, because we got Dynamic Disc Open, we got the USDGC. Do we have anything lined up for next year? Will they put us on air when those sports can fill those?
I think the growth that disc golf has experienced since COVID began, I don't think that reverses if COVID goes away.
Well, I mean,
People have already gotten the bug, man. Once you get the bug, however you get it, whatever leads you to that place where you're at the disc golf course and you finally get to throw that one disc that flies exactly how you want it to fly, and then you're like, oh, I mean, once that's happened, it doesn't matter.
I get what you're
more
saying.
so
though.
on the competitive level.
But you're talking more about like airtime, like space on.
Oh, they
television.
gotta give us that.
Yeah.
Very true.
Do we
Very
know?
true.
Did these 2 events happen because they're looking to fill space?
I heard through the grapevine the
Pretty
CBS deal
mu-
came because airtime was cheaper.
I watched,
But again,
cornhole.
I totally
I
imagine
watched-
that too.
I don't know.
There were
I
people.
don't
There
know.
were people at CBS Sports that were disc golf aficionados
one-
and had
one
relationships
gentleman,
with
yeah.
people in the disc golf industry and had been pushing for disc golf coverage for quite some time, and finally were able to open the door in COVID. But I think honestly, in the same regard as like with the people that are playing it, I think honestly now we had CBS Sports for the DDO, and we're going to have ESPN2 for the Disc Golf Pro Tour Final 9. Like, I think once that is out there, I think we're automatically like we have at least our foot wedging the door
Yeah.
of spectator sports.
You can hear the door in the background.
Are you wedging?
That's a sound effect. Here's a soundboard.
Here's something. Do you know how many?
We're kicking the can. It's over with.
How many active PDGA members do we have right now?
We just crossed over 60,000.
Okay.
I think we're at like
60,000. Jomez has 250,000 subscribers, which is such a good push in the right direction of measuring like, wow, we're reaching the outside world. Like golf, most people that play golf for, on the weekend, they're not playing tournaments, Like my dad plays golf, twice a week during the summertime, and he's never played a tournament in his life, but he loves golf, and we're going to get to that point.
So we have on the PDGA approved list, the last I checked, 85 manufacturers.
Oh my God.
They're not
So-
all active.
It's over that now, Sean.
Yeah,
I
so-
think it's like 88 or 90
Okay,
now.
so my point is if you take all of these manufacturers, major, minor, add up, we don't know what the numbers are because they're pretty stingy about giving those numbers out, but it's tens and tens of millions of discs produced every year. And if you take all of the people in the PDGA that play tournaments and you say on average each of those people buys this many discs, just say 15, and you multiply it, of those 63,000, not all of them play tournaments. I haven't played tournaments since 2009. You got Stork and you got, all the people that work at PDGA that don't play tournaments. So even if you said there's 50,000 people that play tournaments and they buy 15 discs, it is like a 0.1% of all discs manufactured go to PDGA players.
I didn't think about that.
It might even be smaller than that. So
As a rec sport.
to your point is we're so in it. That's all we see. But Jomez has over 200,000 followers that are not in the sport.
Exactly.
And the majority of all discs sold go to people not in the sport.
And that's cool to think about. That's really cool to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got my pin I was going to pull back out.
Oh.
Okay.
Gonna put the hard-hitting question on our guest here.
Let's go.
So it's a twofold question.
Okay.
One, first round, currently PDGA rules is unless there's a feature card, which for video and has to be announced ahead of time and everybody has to agree to it. Otherwise, it has to be random.
Okay.
Okay, so right now for elite events and majors, MPO has to be 900 or above.
Okay.
So the twofold question is, how do you feel as a high-rated player? You go to play that first round, and randomly you get matched up with 3 players that are 904 rated. And 2, do you think there should be some type of solution, raising it to 950, 970, which is the AM cutoff?
Yeah.
If we say advanced is 970. Or do you come up with another solution such as everybody gets ranked by...
Like A pool, B pool kind of thing?
Well, you get ranked by your rating.
Yeah. Okay.
So the 4 highest rated players, that's your feature card. Thoughts?
I think this is a topic that I really don't have an insane, like a lot of people have a big opinion on it. And I've seen like the Disc Golf Pro Tour players page on Facebook is like this, I don't know if it's a private group or not, but all the touring pros are on it. And there's a lot of like hilarious, like petty, like, arguments about these little things. And with this, I just think the place we are in the game right now, like if these people are if someone who's clearly not a professional is allowed to sign up for this event, I should play with them. And if they get paired with me, then that's fine. I will hopefully shoot well enough to never have to play with them. But if they play hot, they just play a great round, good for them. Like I think
Do you think what I'm getting at? Do you think it's a competitive advantage, disadvantage
to be on a feature card?
That you've got 4 people on a feature card and you're stuck with 3 players that qualify for MA3.
That's individualized. I think I actually play better with newer players. I think it's kind of like I can zone out a little bit more. I don't have to pay attention to what they're doing. Like, if they're gonna go to slow pace and take a lot of strokes, I'll just like calm down and play my own game. But I think it's too individualized, the preference, to be like.
I think at your level, it's not gonna matter. You're gonna play your game no matter what.
In theory, I should.
I'd like to argue about this because I think his name is Josh Coghill. I can't think of his last name right now.
Coghill.
Okay, cool. You got it just right. I'm sorry. I couldn't bring his last name up, but we had the same conversation, same argument about the same question. Well, it was an argument. We had like a good discussion on Facebook, and it definitely came up, and he was definitely one of the people who was like super upset that he couldn't play with a professional on the first day because he wanted to play with somebody his level that would make him play better. And my argument was the people who paid to play the tournament could be paying to play with a professional player to get that luck of the draw, where they had a chance to play with the Brian Earhart and get to see him throw magnificent shots and try to learn from that player. And he was just arguing, well, not arguing, like I said, we're having a discussion where he was like, I don't want to have to play with somebody who got here the last second, doesn't know the chorus and doesn't have like good etiquette, and things of that nature. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, that person who doesn't have great etiquette is trying to learn the etiquette from a professional player, is trying to see professional shots, has no chance of winning the tournament, but is super happy that they came because they got a chance to play with a professional player. Yeah. And, and I'm on that side too, because, I play pro. I don't always finish in the top 10 or top 15, well, like I should, but I'm super happy to be on a card with somebody of your magnitude, or somebody who is like, 1,000+ rated.
Who commits a lot of time to the game and loves it. Yeah.
And I think with that, you get, I don't want to say it's like 50-50 right down the middle, just to like put an answer to that, Shawn, but, not many people feel like you, where they're like, okay, I'm going to shoot well with the AM. I know a lot of people that's my magnitude is going to be like, I only play well when I'm playing good with good players, playing with good players.
I think last thought on this. Also, it's called the Open Division, and if anybody is able to sign up for Open, I'm not entitled to play with a certain number of people. It's like how if I'm playing with a 980 rated player, but this is their local territory, they could murder everybody, So disc golf is interesting in that you can't underestimate anybody. And I've had players that were rated 940 shoot 10, 30 rated rounds at Pro Tour events. So I think until it's changed to the professional division, and until disc golf gets to a point where the payouts are so good and the tournaments can be invite only and all the players can eat, I think once it gets to that point where the money gets really good, everybody can eat if they shoot a decent weekend, and that would open up then for like more coverage like golf, where we are covering all the cards. But it's kind of tacky when you have brand new players that are playing these events on their vacation. I don't hate them for it. I understand why they do it. It's the Open Division. Well, I interviewed Lloyd Wema for my podcast.
That was a great episode, by the way.
It was, and it was almost like he was just showing like, this is a beautiful thing. Like, I'm an experienced chaser, and I'm going to do it until you can't do it anymore. So right now I'm just like, I don't feel like I can say, you can't play with me. I'm like,
so the litmus for this is, I was 100% on your side. I was like, I'm playing the course. I'm not playing the player. But then I had an instance where there was a course that was super wooded, super rough, and this player was in the stickers, the weeds, the brambles, every single throw. And we're bringing out the clock. I'm off my game, and then we're on the tee, and he's like, "Oh, what are you gonna throw? Oh, is that a 10 is that a 10 time? What is that?" And then all of a sudden, this guy's just like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I just want to tell him to just shut the hell up. And then I'm going to crush his dreams. And he's going to be all upset. And so then, then my game's affected.
Get a bad rip.
So they're I'm totally with you. Play the game. They're allowed to be there. But, my question, I guess, is would you be opposed if it was all of a sudden $950?
If the payouts were good... I just remember like Beaver State Fling's a good example for the other side of it, and like how we're not quite there yet in disc golf. I remember I averaged like 10-20 golf at Beaver State Fling, and this is like they capped the field size like pretty tight, and it's like literally all of the best players in the world, and then the bottom half still like 990, 980, and whatever. but I averaged like 10, 20 golf on a course that's pretty tough for lefties. And I made $65. I made $65 and I beat a majority of the field. I think I got like 30th place out of the 80 that they allowed.
Super pros.
But the thing, like, I'm cool with that being the field if last cash was $1,000. Sure. Because then you fight
Shout
each
out
week.
to the last cash.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I think we're going to get there, but we're just not quite there yet. That's why I love this payout for the Pro Tour finale, because everybody can eat. Like, you can take as much money out of the added cash and give it to a smaller field, because the money that you're giving us now is bigger than it's ever been. So now I'm not feeling like, well, crap, now we can't eat now because they're taking most of the added cash to this 16-person division, but that's not the case anymore. So, like, once we get to that point, then we can start capping. I would love to have the field capped at that.
What do you think it takes to get the money there?
I think we're already seeing it. I think
seeing when you talk about money there for everybody to eat, what is that? Like,
okay.
Because that could be different to a lot of different sports.
Do you mean like
last cash over under?
No, like where I'm saying, like,
where does the extra money come from?
Where's that money coming from? And like, to me, in my mind, and I love the sport more than anything, there's a cap because it doesn't cost $1,000+ to own a set of golf, disc golf disc.
Definitely.
So when you're looking at what makes money for TV ads, does an ad want to be a part of something that pulls 250,000? That's great for YouTube and Showmaz. It's not so great for TV or sport when you're looking at it at an actual major sport.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're right now. Grassroots growth is, and he probably has more stats than I do on it right now. I just think the more people that fall in love with this game, you never know. Like the PBA Tour for bowling was bought by for $5 million when they were struggling. It's called League of Ordinary Gentlemen. It's a documentary that the PDGA actually made me watch it when I interned for them in 2012. But it talks about how all of a sudden 5 passionate bowlers who worked at Microsoft were like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's buy the PBA Tour and let's turn it into something crazy. And that's how bowling got on ESPN. And I think we're getting more and more people. We saw who bought the Pro Tour. More and more people who are in love with the game and are ready to pour their money into it. And there's other financial things that I don't probably have the chops on, but I just think the more people fall in love with how cool this game is and how spectator friendly it is and how just unique it is as a sport, I think the money will come because it's going to become more and more a part of American culture rather than counterculture. So that's what I feel.
And I always say that there's no cart before the horse in this sport. It's an entire 360 approach. There's people that got into the game because of Joe Mez.
Yeah, tons.
Joe Mez got into the game because of the players.
Yeah.
PDGA is growing because of both of those. And PDGA is making opportunities for you to be out on tour. Yeah. Disc Golf Pro Tour is doing the same thing.
Amazing.
So they all affect each other. If Joe Mez goes away, there's other companies behind them, but still they're the biggest presence, and that's a huge influence.
Yeah.
So,
well, and getting into media too, something specific that I wanted to get your perspective on, Brian, is you've recently taken a much bigger step into the world of commentary, and you've contracted with Gatekeeper Media for a lot of stuff. So tell us a little bit about that. I know now you're kind of.
There we go.
Yeah, we're good. It's just a monitor. We're still recording, even if we can't hear it.
I can hear you.
That's better.
All right.
But no. So I know for us, Jay and I have been doing this podcast for the last couple of years, and Marcus has been with us for the last year or so. But we just recently did, Jay and I have dabbled in commentary on a couple things over the last couple of years, and then we just recently did some for Ace Run Pro for Music City Open. And I can say, beyond the shadow of a doubt, man, it's a totally different experience. And doing commentary, especially recording it and
it's tough.
And producing it and all that stuff, it's hard. It's much harder than doing a podcast. Obviously, our podcast is a little bit more freewheeling than yours is, where we just sit down and put push a button and
Yeah.
then I smash it all together. But
People don't understand that with their comments.
yeah, what was
I know.
your introduction to commentary? I mean, how did you get into it the first time, and how did you decide it was something you wanted to pursue? How did you realize you were so dadgum good at it?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really hard. So I have so much respect, especially before I jump into that. It's really hard to wake up early in the morning before a Pro Tour event where, you might be on third card or second card or lead card, and you have to commentate and then go prepare, and then like restart your day and like go do it. So Yuli, Germ, Kevin Jones, Sexton, huge shout outs to those guys because, their level of play has, I know like it's probably, in their opinion, it's probably dipped their game a little bit, but they've all come back. Like Germ's come back and has been having good finishes. Yuli has snapped back and has been all over the place, since coming back from his surgery. But that's hard to get used to, is the waking up early and then having to re-prepare your routine for the day. Yeah. When everybody else, I always go back to Dickerson because his brain is so one track, like win. Like he wakes up and that's all he thinks about, right? But I got into it because Yuli asked me to be in the Discraft RV in 2019. I met him in 2018 at USDGC. We had like a 3-hour-long conversation about the Banger GT, and he was like, "I like this guy." and me and my younger brother have riffed back and forth about disc golf. That's all we do, is just riff back and forth about disc golf. If me and him had a show together, like he was on one episode of my podcast, shorter segment. He's genius about disc golf. Tom's a genius and phenomenal player. He's like 1030 rated.
Yeah,
he's amazing, too. But I always had the chops because I love talking about it. So then when me and Yuli started touring, we were at Texas States, and he needed someone to do Jomez, and he's like, "You ready?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't care. Let's do it." And weirdly enough, like I broke the rule. I read the YouTube comments, and
no,
never do that.
But man, I was just so stoked. I was like, "Oh my god, that was so fun, man!" Like I got to. My favorite thing is the individuality of players in Frisbee. I think, because of how unique this little piece of sports equipment is, like everyone's personality comes out in their decisions and the way they play, the discs they choose to throw. So I just let that loose, and people in the comments seem to really like that. And we did a couple.
That's how you know you've arrived, bro, is like you are the only person posting YouTube content that gets positive comments.
Well, the thing that I got noticed, the thing that got me, though, was, they do notice the little details. And the thing that got me initially was I read the first round comments, and someone's like, "Take a drink every time Earhart says, some word." I forgot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's going to happen.
But then that kind of stuff, I was like, okay, just look at it objectively. See where they're coming from, and try not to be like, "Ooh, who's," because I'll never meet this person, but they have something to say, and they were bothered by something I said. So it actually helped out, and it made me pay attention. It was Texas State's 2019. I was injured because I had a freak injury. I broke my metatarsal on my it was right after I got 8th at the Memorial. It's like my first big tournament of the year. I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to mess everybody up this year. And then boom, like smashed my foot. And, that's wwhy I got the commentary gig. Because he's like, you want something to do this week? And I was like, please, please give me something to do so I don't lose my mind. And and then since then it's just been.
Did you have a relationship with Derek and Chris at Gatekeeper beforehand, or did they approach you after the fact, after you kind of dabbled in it a little bit and were like, would you like to do some more of those?
Yeah. So
I know that like the reason that we got asked to do commentary for Ace Run Pros coverage was because of the fact that we have a recording studio.
Yeah.
And we already have the ability to produce like decent sounding audio content. So that was a big part of why we were asked to do it. So I know that like you've been doing the podcast game for a while now, and you're good on the mic and you have good audio quality. So
thank you.
How did that relationship kind of firm up?
So my very first round or tournament of commentary was with Gatekeeper.
Okay.
But it was before they had gotten big, and it was before they quit their jobs to do disc golf full time.
Yeah.
Me and Joel Freeman recorded it for Iron Hill. And I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't know anything about the commentary game or like what to expect. And I had never really listened to much disc golf commentary. I loved Marty McFly back in the day because it was just silent, and you just got to hear the birds chirping and the people throwing the frisbee. And so I never really studied much disc golf commentary. So
when it's good, it's awesome. When it's bad, it's unbearable.
That's why
you mute it. Yep.
Well, you're comparing it. What do we compare it to? The only thing people see on TV,
Well, you
which
listen
is
to
professional
you see so
exactly.
commentators.
It's hard, man.
And when you watch those guys, you're like, "There's no way I can do that." Like,
Now I
You
have
see
so much
many big
respect for them.
Mm-hmm.
You see so many big videos from big tournaments that come out, and the audio quality of the commentary is like two guys talking to each other in tin cans. And it's like, God, just don't even have it.
The quality is a huge deal, and I give you that. And I agree with Will. That's why we probably got the commentary.
Yeah,
'cause
exactly.
It certainly wasn't the content of that audio.
Yeah.
Just the quality. But when you're talking about even Jeremy and Nate, in my opinion, probably the people who you would go
They're
to and
slick,
say they're
man.
the number one. When you watch them on CBS compared to like another professional commentator, not really even that close.
It's hard, man. It's probably
and
I
they
bet
did
the
a great
TV
job, I
is-
thought.
Yeah, it's really difficult. And just knowing that thousands of people are going to be, listening to what you have to say, and I actually love like the first time I did commentary, I couldn't hear myself. I didn't know how that worked. I don't even think I put the headset on when they gave it to me. But this actually helps a lot, hearing how you sound when you're speaking. But 2019 passed, and I got a couple random gigs, like Nate Perkins, had me come on and do some commentary with him for random tournaments. But then 2020 came, and Derek called me, and me and him had been just buddies, and I like
Great dude.
Amazing.
Him
dude.
and Chris are awesome.
I love them. They work their absolute butts off, and they care deeply about what they do, and they care about quality first and foremost. And that they don't rush to every tournament, and they're not putting a million videos out. But when they do, for a two-man team, pretty solid stuff.
Yeah.
But they called me, and he was like, "Listen, man, we're ready to take this way more seriously, and we want you to be our main guy." And I had just purchased two Shure SM7B microphones, which is the same one that Joe Rogan uses. I took that sweet zone money from the royalty check, and I bought the best microphones I could buy. I bought a new laptop for recording, and I bought all new equipment. And I was like, funny you should call. I was like, I just made a pretty cool investment. And it was a nightmare this year. I definitely felt the effects of that, because it was me and Tristan, and coordinating this like remote hotspot on your phone, try to download the videos from Google. It's too slow, let's drive to Starbucks. This one doesn't have good Wi-Fi, let's go to Taco Bell. Like the first few tournaments were a real nightmare, because I had not found the flow, because I was mixing. They were sending me the video, I would say 3, 2, 1, hit play, and then I would record it, clip it, and then send it back to them, and they'd lay it over. And it was in the van. It was with the nice microphones, but we were trying to like make sure all the sound was good. And it was really like with Jomez, you show up, they have their setup, the show is already ready to go. You sit down, put your headphones on, and you go, and then you leave. But for me, I put a lot on my plate because of that. But I just love those guys so much, and I know that they're going to be a part of disc golf media for a while, and I just want to help build with them. And I think something that's important for me with any project I get involved with in disc golf is I want to make sure that if I see something, I try not to be self-serving about when I make a comment. But if I see a quality thing that I think could improve, I want a team of people to collaborate with. And, they've been great. Every round, if they make a mistake, I'll call them, be blunt. They'll be blunt back with me. And it's a really good, honest partnership.
Yeah, they're great to work with.
So I think next year we're going to do something pretty similar. So we're gonna move forward with that, and they're paying me, and they have told me that they're going to take me along with them, however big they get, and it's been great. They're great people.
That's something that I hadn't even considered, is the fact that like when we do commentary, we get to come into this little contained environment, into this little bubble, and sit down and put the video up on the TV, and we sit here and just stare at it, and I push a button, and then we just talk. And we just watch it, and just like, oh man, it's almost like MST3K. It's like, we're just watching it like, oh man, he really boned that one. And but then you have a totally different experience, because you have to show up to the course early, forego warm-up time, do the entertainment creative job and then
try to
reset. Get yourself into
Yeah.
a mind state to go compete.
Because it's scary because we
That's
flip-flopped
terrible.
with FPO too. Our giant division now flip-flop tee times with FPO. So I could be teeing off at 2:30.
Yeah.
I could be teeing off at 8:30. So Tristan at GMC played really bad. He had a bad tournament. And we were getting up at 6 a.m. in Vermont to maneuver. I think second or third round, it was the best. It was the biggest card they had ever gotten. It was like Macbeth, Ricky, Nico. It was a very important card, and there was a narrative that was to be developed. And I drive all the way across the notch, and I everything's ready to go. We had a good first round, and then I get to the course 25 minutes away from where we were staying after driving my van up and down the notch, and I forgot my laptop. And,
oh my God!
Yeah, and it was the biggest card ever, and I had to tee off. I was teeing off at like 10:30 because I wasn't playing good either, and I had to drive all the way across the notch back. I called Derek and I'm like, dude, you're gonna kill me, and he was so mad, and he was about ready to. He sounded like he was ready to drop everything and be like, dude, you're not gonna do
I
this.
quit.
He's
Forever.
like, you're not doing this anymore. Because I felt terrible because it was my responsibility to do that. And luckily, Noah Mindsma was staying at our Airbnb, and he did it in a clutch, last second because he had a later tee time. But I showed up with barely any warm up time because I screwed up, and that's also pressure. And it's annoying. But now I'm in the groove. We have a great system. The humps have been worked out. I'm taking the money that they pay me, and I'm going to get an Airbnb every tournament, so I have Wi-Fi. So we're making baby steps, but it's a lot to put on the show, man. Especially with all the pressure of the big event and having to play well and impress sponsors, and I just love being a part of it. I think it's cool.
Well, one thing that we've talked about a lot on the podcast is the fact that the people that are the most successful in disc golf currently, as the industry is kind of burgeoning and growing, are the people that have a hustle, have kind of a
business
passion,
sense.
a business, something they're doing on the side,
Value.
creative.
Yeah.
They're adding something to the game where, that's going to give your ability to do commentary and podcasts, and you being a voice and a face to the game. That's going to give you staying power.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Eric and Tina.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have their whole business. And that's also something that sponsors are going to be much more likely to come alongside and try to embellish what you're doing and brand it with them and support what you're doing, make it easier for you to do good business. And then they benefit from it as well. So, but you're creating this niche for yourself.
We're trying.
Well, and we mentioned a little bit ago, we recently went through a rebranding, and you started out as the Buzz, and you're now the Flight Diary. And I want to be very clear that I'm not trying to paint you into a corner or put you in a position where you feel like I'm asking you to release
Probably not.
or leak any information. But I know that your agreement with Discraft is up this year, and the only point that I'm drawing to is that our rebranding was very much motivated by the fact that we were the Music City Disc Golf podcast. Most of us running the show were on the board of directors for the podcast, but may not be for the long term. So we wanted to create some separation so that we could continue to do it the way we wanted to do it without having to be beholden to somebody
expectation,
or
responsibility.
accidentally misrepresent somebody.
Sorta.
Yeah.
Is that basically where you came to with the Buzz, where you wanted to make it more your own and separate it? I know obviously it was named after a disc, but it was a solid name for a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
What was your thought process in coming to that decision to rebrand?
I started to realize this year, the more messages I got from people, I was like, whoa, a lot of people listen to this podcast. A lot of people really take value from this. And it used to be kind of a passion project, but the more I was like, man, and now Lindsay, she can bust out a beautifully edited episode in a couple days, and it's making it easier for me. I was like, well, crap, let's maybe take it a little bit more seriously. And then with thinking about that and making it a part of my career, I just
wanted it to be your own.
If they wanted to pay me and be the main sponsor of the podcast, I'd do that. But I don't want to also paint them in a corner too. What if the podcast is really and it's I hope it's not going to be, but what if it's like, you know, really inappropriate and sometimes and really like not looking good for Discraft? Like, it's just kind of a weird thing to do. Like, if they're not affiliated with me other than they sponsor me as a player, like,
well, and you also have players from other companies.
It's not a Discraft podcast. Yeah, exactly.
You're interviewing, and that's
cleaner
the thing
branding.
That's the thing about podcasting is like it's open-ended.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a boss. You can make it whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
You make it your show. You do what you're interested in, and you have found a really successful path for your show. I think.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I think
I can understand wanting to make it your own. I was just curious as to your thought process.
Well, because, you know, if say I interview Ken Climo one day and I was opening the idea for like, you know, individual episode sponsors. Like if in a perfect world, the podcast gets huge and I have this cool 2-part series with Climo lined up, what's to say Innova doesn't sponsor the episode? That would look great for them, you know, and it would make sense for them. So I want to separate it from Discraft, and you know that's a bridge I'll cross when I need to get there. You know, I'm still in talks with Discraft about 2021 and tailoring the contract to more what I'm doing, as opposed to some players who, when they show up to, you know, on tour, they show up to compete and that's it. You know, so if we can work out a good deal with that, maybe part of the contract is them sponsoring part of the podcast. But I wanted to separate that. I wanted to take that away and not, you know, make people think, oh, this is a Discraft podcast, or, you know, the Discraft's affiliated with. That's not fair to them either. So
the freedom part of it, I think it was big for us when we
absolutely we wanted to be able to
being worried about what we could say.
We wanted to be able to do
exactly.
what we wanted to do and enjoy it and continue to enjoy it.
For some reason, you moved like on from disc golf, but you still have this massive following. You can parlay that into many other.
Yeah, what if I don't play for Discraft in 3 years? You know, that's just weird having a.
What? Is this a scoop? Are we learning something?
I'm talking about like
no.
ABC disc? What?
Change.
Well,
I would love that.
So
you throw a grenade? What?
No, it's interesting though, because now you're in a position where in your negotiations with any potential sponsor, you have a new facet of your value that you're bringing to the table. So you're not just coming to the table asking for sponsorship based on your performance as a competitive athlete, but you're adding to the game on these other levels.
Exactly. So I think, you know, I actually had a conversation with Discraft today, and we opened the conversation. Like, obviously this year was bizarre, and this year I took, because COVID, there's a lot of players going home, taking breaks. I didn't take a break really at all, and I toured hard all year, but I took a little extra time to work on the podcast and take it more seriously, and not feel as afraid saying yes to all those, you know, serious commentary gigs. Like I feel fine now that I've cemented those as like part of my life, and they're not like new. Like I was telling you the stories of the commentary initially. It was kind of a nightmare, and it made my competing not good.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, we're in talks. Like, I'm trying to let currently Discraft know that I'm playing a long game here. Like, you know, if I can stay healthy and stay in shape and continue to build healthier habits as an athlete, I'll be able to play the game for a while. And I'm hoping to, you know, just like we look at Sexton winning a major at 33 or however old he was, or Barsby winning a major in his mid-30s too. Like, I'm hoping to keep playing the game for quite some time, but I want all three of those parts of my career to grow, you know, exponentially in time.
And in tandem.
Yeah, I don't want to just be known, you know, as of right now, I don't want to just be known as a guy that does commentary and podcasts. I feel like I'm a really good player. This season, I don't feel like I played great. Whatever, that happens. But I want to make sure.
You were just up and down. I think, like, you had moments of greatness
we're
where
getting there.
Everybody saw your potential.
I'm going from all lefty sidearm to now I'm about 50-50. And I only throw the crazy sidearm if I need to. So I'm evolving as a human being, and I think it's an exciting time. It's kind of weird, a lot of new stuff, but it's been a lot of fun. You know, the freedom of being able to go whatever direction you want as a disc golfer, because there's no blueprint to really go about it.
Yeah, and I wanna say, I mean, what I just kind of touched on is not to say that you are not, like, you know, one of the top 10 disc golfers
right
in the
now.
world.
I'm not.
Well, but here's the interesting dichotomy is that you really are one of the top 10 or 15 most visible, recognizable disc golfers in the world because of the other things that you're doing. And where I want to draw like kind of a counterbalance is put a line between what is your value to disc golf as a competitive athlete.
Yeah.
If we can quantify that separately from your value to disc golf as a human being,
as a voice. Yeah.
And I think a lot of the people that are diehard fans of you, myself included, we are fans of you because we see your value as a human being, and like you're so relatable, so positive, you're so creative, you're so innovative, you're pushing disc golf on your own,
trying to
outside of how you're
trying
competing.
Yeah.
And you are a great competitor, and you're always somebody that people look forward to just to see what you're going to do. So, I mean, even if and that's the great thing. It's like, it's this weird thing where you say, well, yeah, this person may not be in the top 5 every event, but they're doing all this stuff. And it almost, to some extent, I could see how that could feel like it's taking something away from your value or your worth. But honestly, man, the fact that you're competing at the level that you are and you're adding all this value to the sport at a larger scale, to me, that makes you infinitely more valuable than your average
it's a long
touring
game.
pro.
You know, you pick the long game, and you pick, like, you chip away at all 3 of these, and you try to get 1% better at them every week. And, you're going to get to where you want to go if you stay persistent about it. But some people are going to see that if they again, they show up, and Kyle Klein's a great example. Kid came on tour. He's not doing a lot. He's just one-wheeling around the course, hanging out, throwing discs, and that kid is a stud. Yeah. And it's because that's right now where his passion is. It's just doubling down on competition, and he'll get to where he wants to go a lot quicker than I'm going to, get to where I want to go, because my interests are split 3 different places. But I think it's tougher, but it could be more rewarding when the I know that guy effect kind of kicks in. Like if I have this great podcast and I have this great commentary, and then a Sexton moment happens for me, it's going to be amazing for the career, my career as a player, because everyone goes, wow, I listened to that guy's crappy podcast when it started.
You've placed yourself in a highly visible position. Yeah.
So, and that's why I have respect for Brody Smith. Like, he put himself in a really vulnerable place, place. And I think some people, however you feel about him, I have a lot of respect for someone that put themselves in a really vulnerable place, and they're not afraid to show the world. And then eventually, if he pops off and he wins a major, what a crazy story.
We see how hard people decry him normally. Yeah. And then when he has a moment of greatness, all of a sudden everybody's like, yeah,
he's
Brody.
994 rated.
Yeah, he's not a bad disc golfer, man. And he's got a very high ceiling.
He's 6'4". He's like 200 pounds.
Well,
a literal high ceiling.
Yeah, he's got a high ceiling,
and
man.
Figuratively.
No, but he just knows. He knows Frisbee, and I watched him all through when I was playing college ultimate. But I think it's like, and he did that with YouTube. He did a bunch of little things in YouTube, and all of a sudden something hit, and then someone who saw him do this thing over here goes, oh, I know that guy, blah blah blah, and then he gets on ESPN, and I think that's currently just my philosophy behind what I'm doing, but. It's just each year that goes by, like, it just refines, and different things kind of present themselves. And I think that's just anyone that works for themselves. Like, it's not, your interests don't stay the same every year. You just have to try to refine it and get more efficient at what you do, and not burn yourself out. And that's, for me, the hardest thing, is not overextending. So I think next year I'm going to play less tournaments. I'm going to play about 20, but only Pro Tour, National Tour, Major, and prepare heavy for those tournaments, but not play the filler B tiers anymore.
And that's the secret, is managing your projected
I can't do
workload.
30, 40, 50 tournaments like some of these guys do. Emerson Keith comes to mind. That dude played like 73 tournaments one season. I don't understand it, but I'm not going to try to fit a square peg through a round hole. I think as I've gotten older, I don't have the patience for doing that. I hate that. Like, I remember playing 14 weeks in a row on tour, and you're in a different state every week. I hated that. Like, it was fun initially when I quit my job, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're so lucky and
it's
cool."
an adventure, yeah.
But when when it stops feeling like a costume you put on every day, and it starts feeling like your clothing, your real clothing, like crap, the dream's over. Like, this is my life. I'm not living the dream anymore.
It's work now.
I'm living, so then you got to dig deep and be like, do I really need to overextend, or should I just double down on what that's what I'm dealing with right now. It's hard. It's really difficult because my play last season was not good, and it was an elite level play, and it really sucked because 2019 I felt like I was ready to go, and then this year COVID hit, everything kind of reset. I built the van, and here we are. So I'm hoping this season that I'm gonna commit a lot harder to the playing and not as much into the media side, but I will still be putting out a lot of media, but it just won't feel like a chore, like it was like a clunky, awkward chore. So that's the goal. We're gonna see.
Well, if I can
We'll
offer
see.
you any words of encouragement, I would say that I hope you're aware that the world of disc golf sees you, sees what you're doing, and sees your worth as a person. And
Whoa. Thank you.
I really think that's true.
Thank you.
At a large scale. You are one of those people. I mean, like, obviously, somebody like Chris Dickerson, he doesn't have to do a lick of anything on social media. He just has to show up at a tournament.
He earned it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he chose that path. Right?
And
He's doing some social media now.
But at the same time,
Brittany does it.
At the same time, you think long term, and when he's Climo's age, and he doesn't have this big following in all these different ways. You're doing the what's his name, Emmett Smith route. You know what I mean, the Deion Sanders route. You're already establishing your value outside of competition, so that you can continue to compete as long as you want and have a transitionary kind of experience.
And I think we're gonna get to a point where these guys that are making the bucks now, I think they're going to be just fine playing into their 40s. I mean, if they stay in shape and they're healthy, Johnny McRae is a strong example of that. Ricky, I think, in an interview said, like, now that he's changed, his diet is super clean now, because he committed heavily to the natural, Lyme's disease approach, which he has to be perfect about, but he's going to be able to play into his 40s, and by the time 20 years from now, there's going to be, I guarantee you, as a rec sport, it's going to be enormous. And because of that, there's going to be more money in the competitive game. I think these guys are going to be just fine. But personally, I don't know if competition's the only thing that drives me. And I have to learn to be competitive, whereas some people, like, later on in life will have to learn to not be so competitive about things. So there's always a balance there. But that's
so I was going to ask, I know back when I was traveling, very few people were comfortable. We didn't have these giant contracts, and I was playing 50 tournaments a year, sanctioned, non-sanctioned, just to get money.
Yeah.
Are you at a point in a non-COVID year where you're comfortable? Are you, if you want to get a hotel here and there, get a hotel. If you're you're not worried about, oh shoot, do I got to go to CC's Pizza for dinner?
No, yeah. I'm very comfortable. I am comfortable, but I think my family taught me some good money habits. And when I took this new job to start saving money to go tour, I saved a lot of money. And my dad looked me in the eye and he's like, just please don't half-ass this, and don't put yourself in a position where money is the reason you're doing this. And so I saved like $25,000. Like I saved half of every paycheck, and then every time I would cash at a disc golf tournament, I would take out the entry fee, and then I would save all the extra prize money. So I saved a lot of money because I didn't want, from hearing stories from Sprague and the people who toured at the tougher times, I don't know if I think that would have been, I couldn't romanticize those moments, and I did rough it a little bit when I first started. Like, I lived out of my Buick and I was tent camping in people's yards and, not eating out all the time. Like, but to me, that's not hard. I like, that's just how, if you want to live a life on the road like that, don't be stupid. Don't just learn what's important and spend money on that, and don't go out drinking every night and spend all your money on booze. And I was just fine. Yeah. Even my first year without a royalty, based contract, I broke even my first year on tour, and I wasn't killing it, but
what made me think of it is your injury that keeps you out of your money making, but the commentary fell into your lap.
Exactly.
But not everybody's going to get the commentary
Exactly.
deal. And if I'm out on the road and injury and I can't play, you know, like you said, being comfortable and not have to worry about.
Because we're still not there yet. We're not there yet where if you have your big break, you make $100K. You know, it's not.
Yep.
We're still not comfortable. So, I mean, my brother right now is, I think, in a year is going to hit the road. But, you know, we've talked about it because he wants to tour really bad. And he just graduated college and is working in accounting right now. But he's only working in accounting to save money to tour. But, I think I told him the same thing. I was like, you don't want to stand over a 20-foot death putt and be like, oh, crap, do I lay this up? Like, how much money is this worth? Like, you don't want to do that. That's not how you win, you know?
Yeah, there was a Beaver State fling way back in the day where Sexton's parents came to me because he was like, I want to go out. I want to do this. I want to go on tour. And they came over to me because, you know, touring pro, and was like, you know, should we let him do this? And I was like, you know, I'm living in a van down by the river. And, you know, I was like, if education's an option, he can still play disc golf. And like you said, you know, he went that route, and a little bit later in life, now he's a USDGC champion and commentary, and everything worked out great. Yeah. So
I think, but then you hear stories about like Yuli, who he raised $750 to go on tour. That's what he got. And he dove into the disgusting water at Fountain Hills, and he raked out 500 discs or something like that, and got like $150 for each disc or something from spinners. And that's how he went on tour. And 14 years later, here he is. And I guarantee you he's going to be up for, you know, Hall of Fame induction. You know, if he's not, I would feel like it's criminal. You know, he's just developed such a career. And then the other side of the coin is that hunger fueled him, you know, and I think some people go into it and that's what they want to do, and they love getting kicked to the curb. I don't know if that was what motivated me at all. I think I just wanted to work in my passion, and I think I wanted to take it as far as I could, and I hated working in an office. You know, it's just all different for some people. Like Joel Freeman's parents were both artists, so he grew up with parents that said,
do whatever you want.
Do what you're best at. Yeah, you know, we're artists and we're the best at being artists, so that's what we make our money from. So his thought wasn't this romanticized, see you later, you know, 9 to 5 job. He's like, well, I'm the best at Frisbee golf right now, so I'm just gonna go do Frisbee golf.
Yeah, your and I stories are very similar.
Yeah.
You know, I was teaching school, renting a room in somebody's house an hour away, and I literally said the same thing. What am I doing?
Yep.
What am I doing? And then I made the decision, tendered my resignation, took everything I owned to the flea market, and then the last day of school, hopped in my car, drove 29 hours straight to Casey Wide Open, and
let's go.
That's
awesome.
Never looked back.
Hell yeah, I love that. I love that. And that's it's funny. One last thing. I know we've been going on, but touring has also made me really appreciate that 9 to 5 as well. You know, because then right now there's no separation for me from work to life. There's no like I get to shut it off. It's like my mother quit teaching because she had that same problem. She was such a good teacher, but she, you know, it was always like when she came home, she's like, well, maybe I can tweak this lesson plan. Oh, maybe I'll sew the costumes for this play instead of buying them. Maybe I'll, you know, sometimes you never think you're doing enough to keep up, and it's annoying. I can't say it's bad because I love what I'm doing. But it makes me appreciate, like, wow, being able to plan around finances, you know, like, oh, I'm going to be getting this amount of money, this amount of money, this amount of money. And, but it's just all, we've talked about counterbalances the whole episode. It's just appreciating where you're at and prioritizing the right things. So,
well, I love hearing your story, and I love hearing your enthusiasm and the love of the game and the way, the way it's all going. That
right on.
The transformation's been pretty cool.
Thank you.
To watch you go from just throwing a disc to being passionate enough to make your life set up for the rest of it.
Yeah, it's been cool, man.
It's cool that you want to do that, but it's even more amazing that disc golf is able to provide that now.
I love it, man, and I think it's just so many passionate people. Everyone in this room is contributing something positive to the game, and that's why we're going to get to the point where Bart Simpson's going to be throwing a frisbee rather than riding a skateboard. And that's why skateboarding's crazy, because it was counterculture, and then Tony Hawk landed the 900 and it got on ESPN, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is way more athletic than we thought. These are just, aren't just a bunch of punk kids. Like that kind of stuff is going to happen. We're going to have our Tony Hawk moment very soon. And I think we're having them already. Like Philo's Albatross went super viral all across the sports world.
Science Channel.
And it's
his Albatross, I made a comment on there, and I got 500 likes on my comment just because of this video.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're on a good track right now. And I think it's sustainable.
We're getting a little bit late. And I could sit here and I think we could all talk for
Is it 8:48?
4 hours. It's going on 9 o'clock. But no, we usually have a little portion of the show that Marcus came up with, tip of the week. And so
Pineapple.
We'll set them up.
Oh, yeah. So I guess I always ask anybody comes into the Sapphire Lounge, if you have like a tip for anybody who has been playing or would like to get into the sport. It doesn't have to be like, form related. It doesn't have to be like throw this type of disc. It can just be like show up on time. It can be like, make sure your nails are manicured. It can be anything. So give me like
some burning piece of information. Burning up a spot in your gullet that you really feel that more disc golfers should be aware of.
Yes. I think yes. I'll give this real quick. It's a mental game tip that you can generalize into real life, because golf is pretty much a reflection of who you are in times of adversity. And it simulates a lot of interesting points in real life that some people with boring jobs and lives don't ever have to face. And that's why disc golf sometimes drives people crazy, because it holds them very accountable for failure. Self-talk and talking to yourself objectively in facts rather than your opinions. So the thing I talk about at every clinic is just pay attention the next time you play around. Don't hate yourself for it, with no judgment. How many times do you label a shot some variation of good or bad? Yes or, make or miss, yes or no, whatever. All of those are opinions. A good shot for you could be a horrible shot for Paul Macbeth. We don't know, A new player, a baby, or not a baby, but like a new player throwing a shot almost going in from 15 feet might be great for them. But for you, you'd be like, no, that's not what I wanted. But the problem is the moment you start bringing in opinion when you're playing, especially short putts. People always do this on short putts. They clunk the bin from 15. They go, you idiot! You so stupid, terrible. That's irrelevant. That doesn't do anything for you whatsoever. And the moment you try to start this new habit of too low, that's it. It's not bad. It's not good. It's too low. That's it. Then your brain doesn't get to go, why did you just call yourself that name? That's so overdramatic. No, it's not. I missed that putt. I'm so stupid. Everybody should make it. That's where a self-fulfilling prophecy starts, and you're trying to self-preserve by like insulting yourself. Or like some player, you can tell that like they're talking about how good my rating is actually this, but I actually play like this. It's like all self-preservation, and that's eating you alive, and it's taking your focus away from the task at hand. So my tip of the day is pay attention to your self-talk and try to call the shot too far right rather than, oh, yank job, you idiot. That doesn't do anything. That's total opinion, and you're creating something and putting something out there that's not even true, not even factually true. So the more you start to see your game for what it is, you'll be so much more focused. And then eventually that subconscious fear of missing that 15-footer goes away because there's no emotion tied to it.
I hope so.
I feel like Marcus created that segment just knowing that one day we would have Brian.
I created
that's the best that's
like,
ever gone, right?
It was actually, I was trying to grow the sport.
Yeah,
it was just something that spoke to me.
Ever gone, right?
I've read a lot of golf books, and that was the one thing in Zen golf that spoke to me the most. And it was just how you get rid of fears. You literally have to rewire how you view situations. It's hard. It's one of the hardest things to do. But
Zen in the Art of Disc Golf. Shout out to Patrick McCormick, because that book is amazing.
It's a good book.
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
Check it out.
Right on.
If you get a chance. And he's got a new sequel to it.
Cool.
But it goes into the whole mind, body, spirit correlation of disc golf and how it's unique in that it brings those three aspects of life together, and it can make you become a better human.
Yeah.
By trying to become a better disc golfer, you almost intuitively, innately become a better human.
Best therapist I ever had was disc golf.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it fix more broken people than church for sure.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
I've seen just torn up people come into disc golf. And
Thanks for having me on the show, by the way. I appreciate
dude,
that.
man, thank you for coming. I'm so glad because
Right on.
we've done this a couple times, but thanks for coming to the studio.
Yeah.
We actually I feel like this is going to be an amazing episode. I can't wait to
Right
edit
on.
it.
I had fun.
So.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Brian, Jay, Shawn, Marcus. Thanks you guys for being here.
Peace.
This has been awesome. It's almost 9 o'clock. We're going home. I love you, baby. Don't be too mad at me. I hope there's still some beef stew left. And yeah,
Later.
We'll catch you guys on the flip.
Let the bass kick.